Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Google Plus Week. Good to have you with us. I'm Dan McDermott in Bentonville, Virginia. Let's go to our panel. We have Peter G. McDermott. Smile, Peter. My much older cousin, Peter. We have Mr. Michael Ellis. Welcome, Michael.
Hello, thank you.
Is that a Cabernet or a Burgundy or Merlot? What do we have?
It is undoubtedly a blend from Domaine Clap, which frightens me a bit, but...
Boy, that sounds like a dating website.
In France.
Yeah. Is it from a box is all we need to know. Okay. Joining us from Augusta,
That is so many.
from Augusta, Georgia. My sister called it vinegar in a box. Mr. Michael Banks. Welcome, Michael.
What's up?
Good to have you with us. Apparently, this is not your first glass tonight, Michael.
No, but that's very funny. Your sister's hilarious.
She is hilarious, yes.
Wow.
That's where I get my smattering of dry wit. Kadeus Kalut, welcome, sir, in
What's up, everybody?
North Beach, California.
Why do you always say North Beach? It's
What is
Newport
it?
Beach.
Newport Beach.
Newport Beach.
Newport Beach.
Like the city cigarettes. Newport, that's how I remember it.
Right.
Alan Furstenberg joins us in New York. Welcome, Alan. How are you, sir?
Oh, just peachy keen, Dan. How about you?
Doing quite well. Alan's in a different location from usual. That's actually why we were late tonight, because he had to switch.
Okay. You want to blame it on me, Dan? I warned you what would happen if you blamed it on me.
We had. I can't blame it on Chi this week. This was my fault. I apologize. I'm a newspaper guy, and I was laying the paper out last night, and it was a nightmare, and I overslept before the show. I took a nap because I only had like 5 hours sleep. But nobody cares about that. What they care about is Yahoo. I'm a longtime Yahoo customer, and I can tell you that their mail service, their Yahoo News is very good and very popular. I think it's more popular than Google News. It's a pretty layout. It's more human edited than Google News, and they have a lot of good stuff, but their mail sucks compared to Gmail. And
Yep.
so what Yahoo what they're going to do is it's apparently they're going to make it harder to use to log in. I guess you got to create a Yahoo account to use this stuff. So a lot of folks have a legacy Yahoo account, and it's pretty easy to make one up. But
But
what's
Dan,
the
here's
issue
the thing.
here? This is
a
to
lot
do
of
what?
folks no longer have legacy Yahoo accounts because they killed them.
That's right. Someone else, and that was a big controversy because if you had, say, Alan Furstenberg at yahoo.com, then if you haven't used it, someone else could have Alan Furstenberg now and be putting up, hairy men porn or something in your name, right? And people might have associated you with that former address, or be anarchists or whatever it is. But anyway, that's a whole different topic. But so what do you think the rationale is for this, and what does this mean exactly? Like, obviously, you'd have to create a Yahoo account to use email or something like that. Is this if you wanted to, say, comment on a news story on Yahoo News or that sort of thing?
I have no idea because I don't use Yahoo. I mean, I assume it's for things like saving, articles that you want, saving preferences and settings that you want. So you've got your Yahoo personalized homepage. I assume it's for stuff like that. The rationale behind it, of course, is that they're tired of giving away information to Google and Facebook.
Right.
So rather than give away that information, they want to keep it all to themselves because they think they can still be players in this game.
Well, and if I can add to that, Alan, I think if they want to be players, then they have to act like players, which is what they're doing.
So do you think they're moving more towards an identity type service?
Well, they're trying.
They're trying. I don't think they'll be successful at it because I don't think they have the penetration any longer that they once had. That's just completely gone and consumed by Google and Facebook.
It's all about owning there's a it's easy to get it's easy to let someone log in. It's easier for the viewer to log in using their existing account, clearly. But then they don't own your email address. They don't own the information about you that they can use to market other stuff to you.
Right.
And the whole point of this is to monetize. It's not an exercise in vanity. They want to make money from you, right? Just like Google does. We understand that's why they're giving us Google Plus for free and YouTube for free, because like you can run ads on YouTube and they get your data, and then they can market, you know, if you're into, if Ellis is interested in kayaking and Alan's interested in looking for a cruise vacation next summer or winter or whatever, then they can serve ads, right? So that's the price you pay. They're not free services. They are in terms of you're not paying them cash, but you're paying them by letting them know a little bit about you, letting them inside your world so that they can market to you specifically. And I get that. That's a trade-off. We're used to that. I'm cool with that. Europe, not so much. But that's, I think, what this is about. That's clearly what this is about, right? Would there be any other reason why they would make it more difficult to use their services?
Can it work for them, Dan?
I would think. I mean, we'll see. To be announced, right?
Well, here's the thing. It's not going to work for me, and here's why. When I go to a restaurant or a coffee shop and one of their offerings is complimentary Wi-Fi, it's usually complimentary Wi-Fi at a cost. The cost isn't monetary, but it's based on information. They want to know who I am, and they want to get me on their email list. Well, you know what? I was eating lunch at a popular chain restaurant, Zoe's Kitchen, a little Mediterranean fare. It was really great. But they have Wi-Fi there. That was one of the reasons I wanted to go into the restaurant. But in order to sign into the Wi-Fi, I had to provide my email address, my first and last name. Now, of course, I could have spoofed this, said Bob Smith, bob@smith.com, or done something like that. But I appreciated the service I was getting, and it was worthwhile to surrender that information to them. I know I can unsubscribe from the email at any time. But the thing is, I was getting a very valuable service that has monetary value to me. And that's why I was interested in providing them with my information. I don't really feel that way about any of Yahoo's content at this point. And until they get the reputation that their content is worth me giving them permission or my information, I'm not going to be willing to sign in to do anything behind a login wall there.
I do think in there, I mean, you know, I troll them about their lousy email service, but their sports is extremely popular. I think it's one of the premier destinations on the web for sports and for sports news. And their Yahoo News is very well done. And they have partnerships like with ABC.
Really?
ABC News. It's very good. It's very well done. I'm in the Google ecosystem, so I typically will go to Google and search for something, because in a Google search, I can easily pull up a YouTube video. If I'm looking for some news story, right? I can Google will give me results, native web, and if it's a hot YouTube video, and the Google News results all in the same top half of the screen, right? So that's very valuable to me. But if I was just consuming, then, you know, they're good at that. They are. So I mean, you know, I don't see any uproar over this. Have you seen anybody freaking out over this?
No, I don't see anyone freaking out about this because nobody cares about Yahoo
haven't heard
anymore.
anybody.
I mean, it's not like
That's right.
I can't. It's
That's
not
what
like
I
we're
think.
debating. Like, I can't believe this new ORCUT policy. I'm so mad, you know, because no one uses. I mean, it's not that bad. You know, they have a lot of, but none of us are. We're all Google fan. I mean, this is like if we were Apple
No,
Week.
it's not that they're that bad. It's that nobody cares.
They only look at the news on Yahoo. What tabloids? What's going on with the celebrities? If they didn't have that, then I mean, they really wouldn't exist right now.
Yeah, it's definitely that Upworthy site. You know, they look for shareable BS stuff like the morning shows do. But they have hard news and stuff. So I guess it's not. There's no pulling of hair, gnashing of teeth over this. So there, that happened. Okay, we're good on Yahoo. All right, so now community moderators on Google Plus rejoice, because now you can pin posts. You can select. Can you just pin one, or you can pin as many as you want, and they're above the fold?
You can pin one post, and if you ever try to pin a second post, the previously pinned one goes back to its normal spot. By pinning it, you essentially put it at the top of the stream in the community. It's notified with this little message that says this post has been pinned. That's about it.
I can see this being very useful. Would this be more like new members welcome, or would this be more like, don't forget we're doing a group hangout
All of the above.
Thursday, or
It's got a lot of applications.
I think it could be both, either.
Yeah, as Mike said, there's a lot of things you can do with it. The question is, what is going to be visible? What will people see, and how will it be used? I'll be honest, I haven't seen it in any communities yet.
We're the moderators of the Language Practice Hangouts community are discussing it now to decide how we want to use it and come up with our plan for using it consistently, and then we'll roll it out. But it'll only be a few more days for us.
yeah. So it's a tool. It's a tool in the toolbox.
It's a tool. It's great that we're finally getting it a year after asking for it. As usual, is implemented slowly, poorly, and I'm willing to bet ineffectively. But bit by bit, communities are inching their way back to where internet forums were in the 1990s.
Do you actually think it's not going to be good the way they're doing it, or
I think it is better than what was there before. So it's really hard for me to criticize it on that front.
So it sucks less in general.
Yeah, that's
Right.
about it. But I think it has serious problems. The biggest one, of course, is that nobody's going to look at it.
Yeah, the thing we're struggling with in our community is people do not read the community guidelines that
People
we've written.
don't read diddly squat.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So that's why putting a single post with barely any additional decoration on it and expecting that this is going to cure all of the ills of people who mispost, badly post, or post crap is deluded.
So should they not have bothered with this then, Alan?
Like I said, I'm glad that they did it, and it's hard for me to criticize that, but I think the way they did it was half-hearted at best. I think it really needs some more visual styling so that it jumps out, so that it is a real, this is important, idiot, type message, instead of just oh yeah, here's a post.
Craig apparently didn't get an invite, so I'm inviting him, and I'm putting the screen on me so you won't see any secret stuff on the screen. So yeah. And of course, it takes a minute to invite someone. Why does it take so long to invite somebody?
Yeah, it's slow.
Because it's synchronized with your voice, and your voice is lagged by about a minute.
Okay.
It's worse if you
Alan-
try to bring someone in on a phone number. That takes forever right now.
I must concede, Alan is in rare form tonight.
This is nothing.
I know. I'm just trying to get
Already.
you-
We're only 20 minutes into this.
And I haven't been drinking.
Well, unless you count the hour that we waited.
Um,
I have a bottle here.
So Michael, let me ask
Alan, you could come over and join me.
No, I'll pass. Thank you. So, Michael, you said you guys are debating how you're going to use this feature. What sort of debates are you having? What's the confusion here? What are your options? Turn your microphone on.
Oh, I don't think it's so much confusion about how to use it as to... No, I've got my microphone on. I don't think it's confusion as to how we'll use it, just that we have four founders of the community, and we tend to try to get agreement between all of us before we set on wording, before we choose wording to post publicly like that. So each of us has good ideas about how to write the community guidelines, and we want, when we're going to do something like this that sort of changes the way we deliver a message out to the community, we want all four of us to have read it and thought about it and agreed before we post it.
Speaking of free Wi-Fi, are you okay, Michael? You just paused there. But every single post you have a committee meeting about?
I'm fine.
Every post you guys?
Oh, no. Just the things that govern the way the community is used.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, wow. What else is like a crucial must-have they should do?
God, no, I don't have nearly enough time for that.
A crucial must-have for what, Dan?
Communities. What else is like? Are they? I mean, you're in some, Alan, and of course, Michael. Are you happy with the current state of them, or are there like some basic? Oh my God, I can't believe they haven't done this. If there was like one or two things, you know, oh my God, already do it yesterday. What would those things be? Those improvements or whatever.
I think you need ways to detect when there's more activity in a community, when there's more activity on a post. You need to be able, you know, right now the posts act just like a stream, which is horrible for actually having things that you can monitor. Of course, that's a general problem on Google Plus in general. I would point out, by the way, the entire panel is nodding in agreement with me. So even though I'm the one sitting here ranting and I'm going to take the heat for it, everyone knows just how badly communities suck, and you're just afraid to tell it. You can't handle the truth.
Now, wait a minute. I'm not saying communities suck. All I'm saying is what you're proposing, I'm in agreement with. That's why I'm nodding. Yes, there should be a better notification system of some sort, although I have not thought of a better one yet.
Well, here's the
You know what? They should just do a frame and let everybody install
I would like to
THCDD,
see-
and everything would be fine.
Cadeas, here's the problem. It's not so much, you know, just that you haven't thought about it. It's that we had solutions to these problems 20 years ago.
But to be fair, you can't, like, if you do like a Facebook page, for example, if you compare a community with a Facebook page, yes, they have insights, but I think the way the infrastructure is on Google Plus, whereas if I post in a community, it's still my post. Why can you see analytics on my post that does not? I mean, sure, if you want to, I guess, track the posting activity per se, but not the analytics for each post. I think
I'm not even talking.
No, that's not what he's talking about.
Analytics.
It's just about threaded conversations.
Right. Most bulletin board systems, you know, if there is activity on a post, that post rises to the top so that new people coming along see there's something going on here.
But do you want?
It's resurrected from the dead, even if you're not the one, even if you haven't replied to it. The fact that it gets resurrected from the dead is important. Even our streams act that way.
But we're already complaining about how Google moves around posts from different orders and times. Do you want that in a community too?
I do, because the way that we interact with communities, otherwise we get things that just die.
Real quick,
communities shouldn't be places where conversations go to die.
Peter, real quick interruption. We're trying to get Craig in. Peter, can you do me a favor? I can't on this computer. Can you copy the link to this Hangout and put it in a private thing to Craig Ship, please, so he can get in? I've invited him twice and he's not getting the invitations. So I'm sorry, Alan, I interrupted you. Go ahead, please.
No, actually, I can't do that because there's no hyperlink.
I can do it here.
I'll get Craig.
I can do it.
Okay, thanks.
Oh.
Yeah, he's in the Hangout, and I invited him again. And he's still like, there's no. How do I get in? I can't get in.
But you know, here's the funny thing. Depending on how we arrived into this Hangout, some of us do and some of us do not have an address bar below the top toolbar. So, just another little.
I guess you could add them within the, if you use Chat for Google, the little thing in there, you just add them.
Or you could use the Where Am I application that'll give you a URL.
Well, I'll say this about communities.
He just asked, Dan, can you send me the link to join on Facebook? Truth and humor, baby.
I'll say this about the communities. The issue I guess there is something wrong with communities because the fact that I don't even think about communities other than when they show up in my stream. So that maybe that is a problem. I just happen to see something and go, oh, that came from the blank blank community or whatever. I don't actually go and literally click on communities and really dig through it. So I mean, maybe that shows that something's broken. Other than
there are lots of problems with communities. The biggest one is their, my biggest beef is that they borrowed some UI concepts from Google+, threw out a whole bunch of others, and barely made them part of the same system. I mean, you can't, for example, if I'm telling somebody something, and they ask me a question, and I say, this would be a much better question if you ask it in this community, I've got no good way to reference that community. The best I have is to give them a hyperlink. To give them a URL.
Yeah, with like a plus mention.
Well, you can't plus mention them.
Right, because they're not a part of the community you're recommending, so they can't plus mention it. Yeah.
So
or
even for public communities, if you give them a link to the community, yes, it'll get there, but it looks like crap.
So you want vanity URLs for communities? Is that what you're saying?
No! Are you just trying to push my buttons now?
I knew you were gonna.
Everybody troll Alan.
Oh man.
I mean, that's why I thought you were going with that. I mean, that's why I thought you were headed towards that direction.
No,
we got this comment
the fact that YouTube links get formatted correctly. Links to people get formatted correctly with plus mentions. Links to communities, who the knows what they are?
How would you do that, though? How would you implement that? Would you
same way you implement links to YouTube!
But, I mean, so you would have a shortened Google Plus link, or is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying you cut and paste the link to this community, and you put it in, and Google magically transforms it into the name of the community.
I got you. So it would be the name of the post.
That's the minimum that they could do. If they actually wanted to do something useful, they might allow plus mentions of a community. But that would be too logical.
So it would change to the name of the first
great
post?
What was that, Mike?
No, just like when you plus mention somebody.
No, I got it, but what would be the title?
The name of the community.
I'm linking to the community.
Oh, only with communities. Okay, I got you.
Right. Linking to posts is another problem, but that's been a Charlie Foxtrot for even longer.
Does anybody actually use communities?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I missed Craig already.
Craig, considering that you don't even use Google Plus, we are once again wondering why you're here.
Yeah, I have no idea. I almost wasn't here. I didn't get an invite, and I had to pester Dan for 10 minutes to get an invite. So
you must have muted the.
I guess I should get the. I guess I should get the message.
No, you are in. You're in the thing, Craig, for real. You were in the. What happened was probably we were talking too much, and the little pop-up chat thing, you muted it, and so when that's where I activated the video call from, and then I invited you.
Oh yeah, I always kill those things because those things irritate the what out of me. So I kill.
So that's why you missed.
So what you can do, Craig, is you can go into Google Plus and then look on the right on the Hangouts.
I usually go to your stream, and usually you have the link right there.
I didn't do it that way this week. I did it. I just activated the old one, and you were in it, but you could have found it if you'd gone to Google Plus. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then I invited you inside here.
So once again, this is all Dan's fault. We're going to blame Dan for everything.
No, even during the show, you can watch back. I mean, I'm not lying. During the show, I said, okay, hang on one second. In the Hangout, I said, add a new person, Craig Ship. Typed it out, selected you, and then hit OK. And it should have rung you.
So how did you actually get in here, Craig?
I almost never get those invites. Dan finally shared the link with me in the chat.
Well, I got it from Michael Ellis, who shared it in the chat. You've muted, and then I copied it and pasted it.
And I
in
shared
the
it
chat.
to you directly, Craig, also.
Yeah, I got it, but that was after I was already in. Yeah.
I'm gonna mail you.
I realized that.
I'm gonna send you a self-addressed stamped.
Actually, really, the
envelope.
easy way is just Facebook. Just message it to me on Facebook. That works every time.
I wish I could argue with him, but he is right.
That's how I invite everybody into my shows. It works every time it's tried. That quieted the room down real quick.
All
Because we're tired of having this stupid
Well,
argument.
nobody has anything to say. It's true.
All right, so on communities, so the final verdict is that Alan hates communities. He wishes that they go away.
Oh, I love them. I think
No,
they're
Alan,
great.
do you use community?
No.
Do you use them, Alan?
Cadeas, I love communities. I think they are great. I think they would be an awesome tool for Google+. I think they would create some real vital communication amongst people who joined it. And I can't wait until they actually implement them. Until then, we're stuck with this thing.
Doesn't Michael Ellis already use them to great advantage?
Do you watch the show, Craig?
I think so.
Michael, are you there?
Yes.
Michael's having a connection problem.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I can't be heard, but I'm here.
Ellis uses the neighbor's Wi-Fi, and he's the person who called Leo that time. Oh, that was a woman, so that's not Michael.
Oh.
All right, so moving on.
Some fun topics here. My chroma key's not working right in OBS. I don't know why. So let me go over here. Kevin Bryan says, Dan, send him the Google Plus link on Facebook. Then he'll get it for sure. And then he says runs away. Afraid
Who
of the
doesn't
flag.
know that? Yeah.
Alan, what is the solution for Google Plus communities? Kevin Bryan asks.
And I started answering him there. And what it really boils down to is communities need to be treated like they're part of Google Plus instead of this, thing that's been bolted onto the side of Google Plus. Communities need to be first-class citizens. They need to have as much power and operate in some of the same ways as pages do, as people are. The API needs to be able to work with them well. The formatting for them needs to be able to work correctly. The management system for them needs to be beefed up and improved and not just kind of there.
How do you compare Alan, how do you compare how they have implemented communities, the concept of communities on Google Plus, with how they have integrated YouTube to a degree with Google Plus?
That's a really good question, actually. I think the YouTube integration, despite getting a lot more heat,
initially,
I think the integration was, and here's what, Dan, did you set this up so that Craig could yell at me? I'm curious on that one.
You don't need my assistance for that.
I think the way they integrated YouTube was actually integrating it. So they tried to make this direct comparison between a channel and a page, or a channel and a person, are equivalent. I think there were certainly some rough spots and some mistakes that they made in the process, but overall, I think the design tried to clean up some things and tried to actually bring them closer together.
Is there something we can learn from that? Because really, initially it seemed, the way it was first categorized, it was the equivalent of a website
Forms.
giving up its WordPress commenting system and instead implementing the Facebook commenting system. But in this case, YouTube was implementing the Google Plus commenting system. So it was kind of portrayed that way initially, and it appeared that way. But really, it's much more integrated than that. Because the profiles are now linking to each other, and you can plus mention in comments and stuff that you couldn't do before. So there are a lot of, for all of us who are Google Plus people, users, we like the change. But the native YouTube people who were like, screw Google Plus, they hated it. And I don't hear people complaining about that anymore. I might hear a snarky remark once in a while, but there's not people making meme videos that go viral about it anymore. But is there anything that they could learn from that could be applied to communities?
Well, I'm not sure there is at this point, because communities are so widely embedded that if they were to change it to actually fix some of the problems, there are things they would have to seriously undo.
But you make a very good point that I never thought about. Why wouldn't a page, YouTube, and communities become some sort of as one product in some ways? I can see where those three being integrated would kind of, I mean, like, for example, going with Craig's and his channels and all that stuff, if we had all that integrated kind of into one where you have the page, the YouTube, and the community, I mean, people could generally follow everything about that channel. So I don't know why they chose to go this route with it.
That's a good question, Cadeus. And actually, it's interesting because communities do treat pages slightly differently. So if the page creates a community, there's some small and subtle in some ways extra things that it does. But that was never really made clear, and they never really took advantage of a lot of that. And
I mean,
it kind of got lost along the way.
Yeah, and even a page and a community together makes a little more sense than just a community out here floating, as you say, bolted on the side. I mean, and I think that's why I don't use it, other than the things that show up in my stream from being subscribed to a community or a part of a community.
Right, and in fact, that's one of the few things I think they got right about communities pretty quickly. And it didn't do this initially, but the fact that communities did end up in your mainstream if you want it there, I think is good. For a while, the controls to do that were a mess. I still think they could have done it better. I think putting communities into circles instead of giving them these pseudo-circle-like properties, I think would have been a better solution. But okay, fine. I'm not going to quibble too much on that point. I certainly think the cross-posting rules when it comes to communities are a mess. I understand why they did it.
What do you mean cross-posting rules?
Well, no is essentially the rule. I understand why they did it, and Michael Banks will remind me if I don't.
I sure will.
And I think there is some logic. I understand some of their logic why they chose not to do it. Unfortunately, I think that those decisions led to other decisions, which mean that it's really the communities end up not getting used in places where they could and should be used better, because you can't cross-post.
I don't understand what does cross-posting mean?
So
let me post to more than one community at the same time, or publicly in my own stream. So I can't, for example, post to the...
Oh, yeah, I noticed that too.
So for example, I cannot post to the Thong Thursday community, the Hairy Men of Google Plus community, and my own public stream at the same time. I need to make 3 posts, even if they're all saying the same thing. And there are logical reasons why not. Because one of those communities might be a closed one, so the comments there shouldn't bleed over into my public community, my public stream. That does make sense. But when you're talking about 2 public communities and a public post, why do I have to do this 3 times? Why do I have to manage the replies from 3 different places?
Trolls, advertisers, spam.
I mean, I get that.
No, Michael, I disagree. It's a poor excuse for all of those, because the trolls, advertisers, and spammers are going to post to all of those places anyway.
It makes it hard.
So now, if I subscribe to more than one community,
right,
I will see these spammers post 500 million times.
But if they do it separate times and just put in the same thing, it's easier for an algorithm to tag those things than one flat-out cross-post.
No, I disagree. If you cross-posted to if you cross-posted to 1 billion places,
there's only one hit.
They're cross-posting it to 1 billion places. This may be spam.
Kevin Bryan asks, should Google communities act more like Google Plus hashtags?
An
interesting question.
That could be a bait itself.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of hashtags in the first place. I would rather see hashtags behave more like communities, but that's another story.
I wouldn't even want to get into that one.
Okay.
Like I said, I think there are good uses for communities. I think there are good uses for private communities. I think there are good uses for public communities. And I think private communities is an example where they shouldn't behave the same way as hashtags. I think my biggest concern is that there's a lot that we should be able to do with communities that we don't because it's just too flippin' hard.
I have something I would add that I want to be able to do in communities. I would very much like to be able to share documents or sheets or slides from Google Drive into a community and know that it was just in that community.
Yes, this is a great example, and I could go on and on about Drive, wishing it had better integration with Google+.
Right.
But even so, the concept of being able to share something to a group and define that group as a shared circle, define it as a community, these are reasonable things to want to do. You can't do it, though.
But I think that's a little tricky, though, because, I mean, if you share it to a group, or let's say in this case a community, and the membership changes, then the Drive permissions will have to change automatically. Then it would have to change with...
No, that Google does... Drive does that already with Google Groups.
Say, yeah.
If you're a member of Google Group, not an email group in Gmail, I'm talking about something called Google Groups. And if you're a member in Google Groups, when the document is shared, you'll have access to it. If your membership is revoked in that group, you'll no longer have access to it. And if you're a member that gets added to the group after the document was shared, you'll have access to it. It works perfectly.
But
they need to just add that same capability into a community or a circle. But I would like it to work with circles too.
In community, each post that you put in the community is your post. So is it the owner or the moderator of the community to say what you share in the community should be shared to everyone?
But Michael, if you share a post to the community and someone else joins that community, they can see your post.
But I can always get rid of the post, whereas...
Exactly.
You can always get rid of your document.
But in the group setting, doesn't the moderator...
I can always get rid of my document.
In the group setting, doesn't the moderator have that option or capability?
Not necessarily.
Have more control.
Sure, they can delete my post, which is where I shared my document. Right? I want to be able to share my document in a post in a community. So the moderator can do with the post whatever a moderator can normally do. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Alan.
Nope, that's fine. I want to share this comment from Lori. Alan hits the nail on the head on so many points about communities. Communities as a concept have great potential. Sadly, they are poorly executed. I do have hope it will get better.
And just a quick note to our viewers. A quick note to our viewers: if you want to get Alan to read your comment on the show, preface
agree with him.
Alan is right on so many levels.
Well, that's not true. I introduce posts that say that I'm wrong, and I tell them why they're full of it. But I'm happy to share posts that say that I'm wrong.
I'm just trolling. Sorry.
So far, nobody has said that Mike Ellis has got it exactly right.
And Alan, Craig, Chad has a question for you. At the beginning of integration of YouTube, it sucked that all the trolls were coming into his stream. However, now he doesn't see that there's much. Did Google make a tweak or anything that you may know of?
Let's put it this way. I am not specifically aware of any tweak. If there was, they wouldn't tell me anyway. But what they said from the beginning is that they were going to be monitoring how the trolls were behaving, how the filters that were in place to deal with trolls were working, and that they were going to be adjusting that over time. We know that Google is always fiddling with their algorithms, so it doesn't surprise me that we see that improving, since that was very specifically one of the things they wanted to fix. Okay, Thomas is asking me what is that dragon? I have no idea what he's talking about. Does anybody know what dragon he's talking about? Guess not. Thomas, if you could clarify that, I'm happy to answer your question, but I have no idea.
Is there a dragon behind Michael? What's the green thing, or is that an Android thing?
Oh.
Michael Banks, is there a dragon behind you? Or is that an Android thing? Oh, it's an Android thing.
Michael don't even know himself.
I don't know.
He's looking around to see where the dragon is.
Ain't nobody hear you, Michael. You on mute.
Yeah, I'm looking for the dragon too. I see a few Android things. I mean,
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
shouldn't be a dragon back there.
We need clarification.
Just-
We need dragon clarification, Thomas.
Just a few more comments. This one again.
Ooh,
from-
Lori.
That's
Friedrich
another
has
way.
something great to say.
Yeah, that's another way to get a comment read on
Shut
the
it,
show.
Dan.
Agree. Tell Alan he's right, or tell Alan that Dan is wrong. And either way, Alan is almost guaranteed. What you got, Alan? You got another one there?
First of all, I want to say, Lori, welcome to the show. I don't think we've seen you on here much. Great to have you all in our comments. We love comments from our viewers. I had another one. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. This from Kevin. The biggest Google Plus communities problem is that when I log into Google Plus, I don't see posts from them, so I forget about them. More prominence is needed based on your interaction with it.
I agree completely.
I agree with that.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
that's true. I've seen that where all of a sudden I was like, you know what? There was a video editing or people who host shows or whatever it was, some video techno geek community I was in, and I hadn't been in like a month or more, and I just randomly saw a post on my stream, and so I went back and there was like several great posts that I hadn't thought, I just hadn't, it wasn't in my face. There's so many distractions on Google Plus. I wish they could make communities more of a distraction, for more discovery or rediscovery, if you will. I'm not sure what the word is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're still in a community, even if you don't interact, every once in a while they should throw one of those. If it's a hot post, they should integrate
here's
that
the
into your
thing.
regular stream.
Here's the thing: if you've got if you've got volume control turned on, it should do that. So for communities, even if you're not in them, it should every once in a while send a post your way, depending on what the volume control is. Now,
It looks like, though, Alan, it looks like the only thing you can do with volume control is notifications on or notifications off, and that's it.
No, you should be able to set it to low, medium, high.
Yeah, it's I think it's standard, fewer
Okay.
and more. I think that's what they say.
Yeah, I forget what terminology they decided they finally settled on, but in theory, but there's a lot of problems with that weighing algorithm itself. And I think a lot of what it boils down to is people aren't sure what they're getting at any given time, what to expect, or how that actually enters the mix.
Hello,
And so
George
people
Lopez here.
don't
Do you know
see it
what's
and don't realize
included
it.
on a Carnival cruise?
But I do
Big
generally
laughs,
agree with
because
Kevin.
I'm working to make my Punchliner Comedy Club
for-
the funniest on the high
is one-
seas.
this
You
is
know
one
what
thing
else
I've
is
got mixed
included?
feelings about, to be
Almost
honest.
everything.
The
All
concept
meals,
of putting it in your
entertainment,
stream,
kids
I
clubs,
think is a good
exotic
one.
destinations,
Is a good one.
and one
because
handsome Mexican.
If it's not put in front of you, you'll forget that it's there eventually. And this is one thing that Google Plus has over older bulletin board systems, which, if you started forgetting to go there, you'd never know that anything happened, so you would go there less and less.
Mm-hmm.
Google Plus, presumably, you're always getting dragged into it one way or another, either through, the Mr. Jingles or, just the red box showing up. Google's hoping you're returning to it often enough and broadly enough that they'll be able to put this stuff in front of you. Anyway, I think we're beating communities to death.
Literally.
Any final thoughts from anyone on this?
Okay. So there. Great job, Google, on the community thing. Next. There's some scheduled maintenance happening. I didn't read the whole thing. I was obviously asleep part of today, and I was moving stuff earlier, and I did
So
a
this
paper
is-
last night.
this
So
is-
what's the deal? March 10th, we're going to have a little maintenance.
A little maintenance at, I believe it's something like 1 a.m. Pacific time,
I think it's
scheduled to last
1:45.
for about 45 minutes. What, Dan?
I think it's 1:45 a.m.
I thought it was 1 till 1:45. 1:40.
Okay.
At any rate,
It's late.
it's late or early, depending on how you look at it. May impact some of our European viewers, I suppose, barely. But one of the associated comments that went with it was that they were going to be trying to schedule maintenance at times that do not bother people nearly as much as they used to. So no more of scheduling maintenance right in the middle of the U.S. prime time. They may actually try to schedule it at the most inconvenient time for their engineers.
They used to deliberately troll our Android week. It was on Mondays at 9 p.m., right?
9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Absolutely, which coincidentally is the time for Android week, which Google would deliberately choose for their maintenance and cause us all kinds of commotion.
So I think that's the more interesting aspect is that they're finally realizing when people, expect their system to work, and they're relying on YouTube to stay running. So yeah, they're finally taking YouTube seriously. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
Actually, the reason that they're rescheduling is because the Hooping Live show is Mondays at 10 p.m. And they got so many complaints from the viewers of that show that they've decided to schedule that maintenance at a different time, because Hooping Live Mondays at 10 is quite a popular live show.
Craig,
what time zone, Craig?
I think there was a White House...
Eastern time, U.S.
Wasn't there a White House petition about that they were interrupting HoopingLive.com's show?
I hate to comment on the White House, whether or not they were or were not involved in that decision. I think...
Speaking of rumors, is it...
It would be inappropriate for me to comment.
That's correct.
Speaking of rumors, I heard that Mark Zuckerberg, prior to his purchase of WhatsApp, was considering buying the Hangout10.com network. Is there
actually the Hooping Live show, and he was going to buy that for $1 billion, a cool billion. $1 billion is a new million. That's what Mike Mann tweeted. Actually mentioned on his Facebook page. $1 billion is the new million. So that's the deal.
Okay. So we have that.
There's that.
All right, and
I've still got a ways to go.
try to.
Slow news day, folks. Slow news day.
Yeah, you're not lying. All right, so there. Any debate on the YouTube scheduled maintenance?
Ah, damn it! They're in the middle of the Asian primetime viewing hours, and I'm telling you, those people need access to our content here. And if we're going to shut YouTube down at 1 in the morning Eastern time, just because it's convenient for the viewers in the U.S., what kind of message are we sending to the rest of the world?
There you go. That was pretty good.
It's very Amerocentric.
Yeah, this is we're like a cable news channel. We can debate anything and make it controversial. Okay, next up, there was this. This is really freaking cool. I've been complaining about.
Before you get into that, Dan, there's been some talk in the YouTube chatter about hearing some background noise of the George Lopez show. Anybody want to fess up that they're watching TV instead of watching this show?
What are you doing over there, Dan?
I think it's actually Michael's headset.
Are y'all serious? I can't hear that.
Really?
I don't have any tabs that are displaying the microphone.
No, Michael's been giving us a low level. Michael Ellis been giving us a low level hum in and out throughout the show. So
sorry.
So Dan, you sure you don't have the George Lopez show on over there?
Oh my God.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
All right.
Is there a volume indicator on the thing? Kevin Bryan,
it's my heater.
They're shutting YouTube down because America. I love you guys.
See, that's the kind of stuff that that explains the whole world's view on America is our scheduled maintenance around our primetime viewing. I mean, that's classic America. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, but here's the thing, Peter. It's not even like the previous time that they would always schedule outage was better for anybody.
Yeah. You know what they should do is they should only do maintenance on the servers that nobody's using and divert the traffic.
Well, no, here's the thing. They need to schedule maintenance, for, say the 31st of April. I think maintenance on the 31st of April would be fine.
Yeah, I was thinking February 30th, but that's me.
I suppose that would be equally valid, but it's
It
all
would
about
be
the timing.
exactly equally valid.
Approximately, exactly, yes.
The problem was not the time that they were doing the maintenance. The problem was that they were doing it the same time over and over again. Why not spread the pain around?
Craig actually makes a really good point. Instead of letting people have the opportunity to schedule their events around the maintenance in a regular pattern, why don't we just do a shotgun spray and screw everybody up at the same time?
No, they announce it in advance, Peter, and my point is they were routinely doing maintenance on Mondays at 9 p.m. because I know it messed up several of our shows.
Oh yeah.
Why not do it one time, Monday at 9, and why not do it when they do it 2 months later, do it at 11 p.m., and then the next time do it at 1 a.m., and so they spread the pain around a little bit. Why do the maintenance at the same time each time they do it? That's my point.
Or why bother even apologizing for it in the first place? Why create this big ado about it? Wait a minute.
I don't think it was an apology. I
Wait
think
a minute.
it was
Time
just,
out. Was Craig wearing pants? Did Craig just get up wearing no pants?
Is he not wearing pants?
I don't think he's wearing pants.
Let's go full screen. He's wearing shorts.
Okay.
Swimsuit. That's all I wear down here in Florida is swimsuits 24/7, 365.
And we should note that this is the first time on this program anyone has ever said, Craig just made an excellent point.
Actually, I think it happened 6 months ago. I think if I go back and look at the tapes, there was one time.
Well, but here's the problem, though, Dan. Peter was saying it sarcastically. I've actually, on rare occasion, I will admit, but once in a while, agreed with Craig.
With clever editing, I could make it appear flattering. No, I'm just kidding. So,
there
you won't be able to edit this show because it's going to run for 4 freaking hours.
Craig, what's the temperature in Sarasota? Oh, he's off.
Switching bathing suits.
I'm working on my dinner. I just got back from playing tennis prior to the show, so I haven't had my dinner. And of course, Peter's going to comment. It's not ramen noodles, okay? I'm making a salad. But it was cool today down here. It was only, I would say, about 65 degrees. So it was unusually cool for March. This time of the year, it starts actually getting kind of hot down here. But it was very cool, and tomorrow it's going to be probably about 70. So but we're going to start creeping up, and it's going to start getting too hot, and then I will head to North Carolina.
Do me a favor, Craig, real quick, just briefly look at this and then listen and then chime in a moment, because I think Al's going to get into it with me on this watch topic. But Craig is actually a watch expert. Seriously. I mean,
Watch out.
No, he does. He's got tens or hundreds of thousands of views on his watch reviews. He's done a ton of them. People, but look at the link in the watch story, which is the next topic in the doc, Craig, and just take a glance at it. But I have been complaining about the smartwatches that they're not stylistically appealing. They're not aesthetically appealing. So the same thing with glass. I think that glass needs to be less 7 of 9 Star Trek looking. And I think it will. And I made an analogy in a private post we had earlier with Alan and a couple other people that I compared it to, who was the kid? Speaking of George Lopez, wasn't he on that show with some actor who played Zach in the 80s?
Wasn't he on that show that did that thing, and it was on
It
way
was the
back
teen
then?
show and he had, it's the viral photo of him with a giant phone like Craig has. You know what I'm talking about? And I think that's the way. My point is this: the watch I think was invented in the 1500s, and 1504, I believe, and then it was finally. It took about 150 years for them to fix it, to where it kept fairly accurate time, or at least clocks did. And so for hundreds of years, they've been refining the art of making an attractive watch.
Well, let me cut you off there first, Dan, because you're wrong. While the watch was invented in 1504, it was a pocket watch then.
The point is, I'm saying that it's an accessory. Go ahead.
Well, but and it remained as a pocket watch until I believe it was 1904 and 1905. It wasn't until then that wristwatches began to appear. Wristwatches are only about 100 years old.
If you want to watch, there's a watch.
Okay, so yeah, I wasn't kidding when I said he is an aficionado. But do look at this link, Craig. I'm going to show it with our viewers. And the rest of you, this I'm just showing the screen that's in our topic doc. Can someone shoot, put the doc for Thomas Milne? He's commented that he's trying to see that. So anyway, and I don't have a problem with that. Okay, so this, what they did, he asked this company, I forget the name, it's of the company, but he asked for permission to doctor their watch and create a concept here. So this is, I guess, the Triwa, but that's not the manufacturer, that's the brand name. But he's got this just brilliant concept here, and this gets to my point, and then Alan is going to beat me up over it. I think that all of the Pebble is nice, but it looks like some geeky electronic thing that no business person or whatever is going to buy and wear publicly, but it looks very functional. And here you see a very classic and classy Brooks Brothers looking watch that I think these are like $200 or $300, $250, $300, so not crazy priced, but they've taken the actual watch and just made it. He's superimposed this his concept, right? And so here's some other that I think that's the actual watch there. That's what it actually looks like. And I can't pronounce the manufacturer's name. I try and I can't. So here's some other things. Message. What's your heartbeat? Right. That'd be very cool for Craig if he's doing cardio, and he doesn't want to have to put some contraption on. His watch would have it on the back of the watch, and he could just look at his watch to keep his BPM, and maybe it could warn him if you're too high or too low.
If your heart stops, does it vibrate? Does it warn you?
No, but if you die, it stops the Netflix stream.
Right, that's right. Okay.
So that they save on, and then so anyway, there's a bunch of different concepts here, and just basic things you would assume would be on some sort of wearable, specifically a smartwatch. But this gets to the thing. This gets to I've been saying this. It's like this guy specifically is trying to make my point for me, and I appreciate that. But I think that these gadgets, for hundreds of years, they have made timepieces, clocks beautiful. They've become pieces of furniture or accessories. For I guess 100 years, according to Alan, they've made, because I mean it's tricky to make something thin enough to strap around your wrist. I get that, right? So that is more recent, according to Alan's research. So I'm just saying that watches can be beautiful. The Rolex, the fancier Seikos, the whatever names that Craig would know and I wouldn't know. And I don't wear a watch, but I look at this, and this is classy looking. This is a nice thing. And the key comment here, and this applies to glass, and this applies to smartwatches. The key comment, the guy said, I want my technology to be discreet. I don't need to flash it around. I just want a nice little thing, and I can use it. It doesn't have to be orange with flashing lights. And I think that this meets the bill. I think this is a beautiful concept, and I've been advocating, and then I'll shut up and let Alan rip me a new one. I've been advocating for a long time that these guys should, in fact, get with people like these watch manufacturers, get with Rolex, get with whoever. Craig could tell me better who. But I think that they should get with these guys and put the technology into and work with them and maybe license it, to build it together or whatever. But I wish that the big watch companies that make classy-looking watches, they don't have to be $50,000 Rolex gold watches, but just, the stuff you see in Costco or Walmart, whatever, and they could become intelligent. Because right now there's like crap, and there's semi-functional and pretty good, and none of them really look that good. So go ahead, Alan.
Okay.
I'm sorry. One more thing. I swear to God, I'll shut up. The reference I made was that the Zach character from the 80s TV show with the giant box phone, like Craig shows once in a while for grins. I think that today's Google Glass, today's smartwatches, the Pebble and the Samsung, whatever the hell that thing is, are all going to look like that because they're going to get fashionable in the same way that cell phones did. So I'm optimistic, but I don't think they're there yet. It's the early days. So go ahead, Alan, and then Cadeas.
Well, I think that's it, is that I don't think anybody actually fundamentally disagrees that there is more visual design work that needs to come into these. But if we're going to use your analogy of, they've been designing beautiful watches for centuries, as I said, no, we've only had a wristwatch for 100 years. And they didn't come out of the gate as beautiful as they did now, although some of them were very elegant and very nice looking.
But you're getting me on a technicality. You're getting me on a technicality. My point is legitimate. Clocks have been around for hundreds of years, and they're beautiful pocket watches in the Wild West.
Can I finish?
And they're ignoring all this design. Go ahead.
I'm not getting you on a technicality. I'm continuing your analogy.
Oh,
My point is that, yes, there has been an evolution, and at the beginning of that evolution, the device started as purely a practical device. And shortly afterwards, it evolved into something that we would consider beautiful today. Similarly, the wearable market is also started purely practical. The Pebble is a very practical design. As it evolves, you're going to see designs like this come to realization as the technology can handle it. Right now, the technology can't handle this kind of thing. It's not possible. And you're seeing things like glass are being designed with aesthetics at the forefront of it. So it's not, glass was not designed with how it was going to look as an afterthought. It's very deliberate. Every element of how it looks is very deliberately done. Cadeus, what are your thoughts?
I'm still anti-watch. I feel they should die.
Did you look, Cadeus? Did you look?
However, you didn't let me finish there. You didn't let me finish. However, I'm looking at this watch over here, the watch that you put up, that we're talking about here, and it's very minimalistic. It's very nice. And if I had to wear a watch, this would be one of the watches that I would wear, given it looks exactly how it looks on this thing. Because a lot of times you see these pictures, and then when you see them in real life, they're not what they look like.
Well, so this is total conceptual, remember.
Right, exactly. So right now it's conceptual, so that's why it looks all magical and looks like the greatest thing since sliced bread. But if it looks like this on the final product, I would be more intrigued by it and would consider using it. But again, I'm still anti-watch. I feel like we should be done with that tech now.
Why would you say that, Cadeus? Why should we be done with them? They're extremely practical.
Absolutely. I don't get that at all. I mean, you don't do anything that's time sensitive? You don't do anything that's time sensitive throughout the day?
I do. And I do that with tech. So, for example, all you guys that are saying this are people who have not used Google Glass. When you use Google Glass...
Disagree.
Okay, well, when you use Google Glass...
I've used Google Glass.
So when you use Google Glass on a daily basis, you come to get comfortable with the time being above. There are days where
you actually wear Google Glass all the time?
I wear Google Glass 24/7.
Oh my goodness!
Well, that's an edge case. That's clearly an edge case.
Definitely an edge case.
Oh, wait a minute. Here's the thing. Time sensitive, you may not know your schedule right away. Your watch is not providing that, in the current state, is not providing that information to you on what your next schedule is, what you need to do in 3 hours, what you need to do in 6 hours. All that's laid out on glass. If you need to know the time, all you do is tilt your head up and it's right there. I've gotten so comfortable with that when I don't wear glass, if I'm letting somebody use it and I want to know the time, I find myself looking up just like a person finds himself doing this and they don't have a watch on.
Until it becomes a mainstream application, though.
That is the number one thing you see when you tilt your head up. So for you guys who have not used glass on a daily basis, you can't bash it because you don't know what it's like.
No, we're not bashing it. I'm just saying.
Well, no, Craig is saying that I don't go
Craig bashes everything. Craig bashes everything. Craig bashes everything on Facebook.
Okay, Craig, we were talking on the phone about watches, and you gave me a brilliant example that Ellis was alluding to. When you're at an event, and you got to have the watch on. Tell us that story real quick.
I mean, it's not just events. I do a lot of things that are time sensitive. from playing volleyball at 1 o'clock in the afternoon often, from playing tennis at 7 o'clock in the evening very often, from doing shows, live shows that I do start on time. And if I'm covering,
That was a dig.
and if I'm covering an
So you're
event,
saying Dan needs a watch?
and if I'm covering an event, often somebody will say, I can talk to you in 20 minutes. I want to do an interview or something, and they're busy doing something. Come back in 20 minutes. I'll just turn my bezel around to the 20, and then it'll, when the minute hand gets around to that 20, I'll know that it's 20 minutes, and I can bop right by and do the interview.
And
So
that's
I
in the
use
same
it-
fashion that I can say, set a timer for 20 minutes, and it happens. So it's
Yeah,
still
I mean,
not
if
the
I was wearing Google Glass, absolutely, and I use Siri on my phone and all. But many times when I'm covering events, I can't fumble with my phone. That is not an option.
Exactly, and
No,
that's
wait a
why
minute.
glass
Time out.
becomes
Time out.
useful.
It's not an option. I've
That's
got
why-
cameras, I've got all kinds of stuff.
Exactly.
And so I just glance at my wrist. It's much easier for me to just glance at my wrist. I'm sorry, it works.
And it's
Time out, time
just as easy
use
to
it-
tilt your head up, Craig. It's just as easy.
I
to
know.
do
I'm
this
just
like
saying,
this.
if I had
out.
glass on, yes, I probably would not need the watch.
Okay.
Peter.
But glass would get in my way as far as my cameras and everything, and so it would be another issue. So I guess everybody's going to be different on this, but and I think once we get to the point where a lot of people have glass, then of course they won't need watches.
And it's not just for event
would glass get
photographers.
in your way? How would glass get in your way with the camera when it's above your eye? That makes no sense.
I don't.
Can we
Yes, when I
talk about
put my
these?
camera up, anything on my head gets in the way. Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Cadeas.
Peter,
I've tried using the DSLR with my glass on, and it bumps into it every so often.
Peter McDermott, what do you got?
Okay, let's get back to talking about watches. the biggest problem here, and this is a problem with glass, I know we got off talking about that. The reason that smart watches suck is that a regular quartz movement watch, an analog watch, has a power consumption rate of about 1 microwatt. So the battery in this probably has 55 milliamp hours in it, and it's going to last me 2 years. The battery in the Samsung Galaxy Gear has 315 milliamp hours, and I'm going to be lucky with regular use if it lasts me 1 day. Let's talk about the impracticality of that. The only thing that's going to solve this issue of wearables, and especially with smartwatches, is if we can find a better way to store energy. Alan?
Well, Peter, here's where I disagree with you slightly. Part of, if you look at the Pebble, for example, the average time that a Pebble will go on for, no, it's not 2 years, but it is like 7 days, if not more. The Pebble is intelligent and careful about how it uses its power. The Gear wasn't.
No, I understand. I
she's
understand
still
the
with
Galaxy Gear 2 is better in its power consumption than the 1, but we still haven't solved the problem that we're also having with glass and with other wearable tech, is that we haven't found a good way to store energy. So when is battery tech going to become the focus? I mean, Moore's Law talks to us about processor speed, about memory, and we've been right on point with that for the last 20 years. But when are we going to start finding better ways to store energy? Because I think that's the biggest limitation of all this technology.
And/or generate it, Peter. If they get better with the generating electricity with the motion, like the kinetic watches and so forth, if this improves, then that can be a way for active people, if you're actually moving around a lot, to maybe give you a little bit better life. So you're going to have to do a combination of these things, I think. So, yes.
But the problem with that, Craig, the problem with that is as we create faster processors, they require more energy. So take, for example, a picowatt. That is 10 to the negative 112, or 10 to the negative 12. That's the average amount of energy that a cell in your body consumes, right? So you're talking about taking like that level of energy, turning it into kinetic energy, and trying to power something that's consuming. I mean, what does the Pebble or the Galaxy Gear consume? Is it like 5 milliwatts, somewhere around there, Alan, you think?
Absolutely no clue.
Okay, so you're talking about something,
I'm sorry.
something
I really
that consumes 10
Peter,
to the ninth power more. A billion times, is it a billion or a million? A billion times more energy than a cell produces.
So
Depends if you're in the U.S. or Europe.
Well, that's right, yeah.
But Peter, I can take for example, my solar watch, I can take it out and wear it in the sun for like 6 hours, and then it'll go for 6 months just on 6 hours of sun. So, and I don't know how much the kinetic watches, the ones that charge by your movement, that then charge a capacitor, I don't know how much they actually generate from the movement. So
But Craig, remember, these are for watches that still consume very little.
Exactly,
power.
exactly. I'm not saying that these things aren't going to have to improve, but I'm saying that your wrist actually does move quite a bit during the day, at least if you're fairly active. So some people might be able to pick up a fair amount of energy from a charging device inside that watch that, you know, is a weight that moves and swings and is a generator, right? So if it's constantly charging that battery, you might not have to charge it as often, is all that I'm saying.
Also, this should be, it's basically a notification thing, right? I mean, you're not going to watch Netflix on your smartwatch or glass. It's a
I would.
Well, I guess you could watch Netflix on your on glass, sure, but
I wouldn't. Netflix
No,
is horrible.
but Craig, here's the thing. Craig made, write this down, folks. Craig made an excellent
twice
point.
in the same show.
Right. Which is, it's not so much about storing energy, it's about generating energy. So for wearables, and this is something, you know, we often forget about, if there's a more efficient way to generate energy than to depend on stored energy, and we only need a capacitor that's so big because we have this abundance of energy, and, you know, solar technology is way behind where it needs to be right now, but if there's some way that we can harness either that kinetic energy or the solar energy and store it quickly, efficiently, be able to use it, capture it again, and recycle it, it'll circumvent the problem of storing energy, because if we're able to constantly produce it, the size of the capacitor wouldn't have to be that big.
Or you might be able to do both. You might be able to also generate some electricity because the heat from your wrist, right, is heating one side, and then if the other side is cool, you can generate electricity that way. So there might be several ways that they can generate
I don't know
power.
why phones haven't taken advantage of that at all. Watches have been doing that for a long time. Go ahead, Alan. You got a comment?
Yeah, this quick one. The thinking behind the new technology is that people recharge daily while sleeping. And that's fine if that was actually what, you know, if some of these devices could live that long. But they don't. At, you know, even modest use, you know, the gear would die far too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets ridiculous.
Even glass,
like
I will be the first to say it. Glass does use power, and if you're using it, you know, for moderate stuff, it's going to not last the day.
It does get outrageous. Like I'm thinking of setting up a table where I'll have my camera gear, my various, you know, rechargeable batteries and packs and different things, and like maybe 2 power strips and plug in all this stuff and have a place for everything so I can remember to charge everything.
I actually have that. Yeah, I do that.
It's crazy. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But we're kind of used to that now. Like I joke about Michael Arrington's comment about when the iPhone first came out. He said, you know, it's a great phone. I just wish, you know, I could go to the bathroom without having to bring my charger. And that's kind of true. But Peter's right that, you know, and we have technology like what Amazon did with Kindle Paperwhite, where I think it goes, doesn't it literally go for months on a charge because it's just black and white. It's just, it's a neat thing, and a smartwatch could be like that. It doesn't have to have fancy colors and stuff.
And Dan, a lot of this battery life stuff is way overhyped. I almost never have to charge my iPhone during the day. I usually go through a whole day, and at the end of the day, I usually have at least 50% of a charge. And that's if I don't even charge in the car. And if I drive out...
Greg, you don't use it like normal.
Go back to 1905 in the wristwatch. How often do you replace the battery on your wristwatch? How often?
Well, I mean, I didn't have battery-powered...
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Take a battery-powered wristwatch. On average, how often do you replace a battery?
Several years.
Let's say on average 2 to 3 years.
Time. Yeah, they last
That's technology that we've been using. When did the Quartz 55 milliamp hour wristwatch come into fashion? Was that the 60s, I guess?
I don't know, but I had a Casio G-Shock that the battery lasted 10 years in it.
So we have technology that's already 50 years old, maybe 40 years old, whatever it is, with battery power that works for its application for such a long period of time. And here you are arguing, saying, my phone lasts all day.
But see,
that
my
sounds
point is,
ridiculous.
No.
If we're going from a standard of a wearable technology that lasts for years at a time,
Peter,
and you're talking about a device that only lasts a day,
but see,
and you think that's acceptable?
Exactly, but the point I'm making is my phone right now is 72% charge, right? And I haven't charged it all day. The point I'm making is that people overhype the battery issue, okay? I've heard so many people say, oh, the iPhone can't get through the day, right? Bullshit.
That's not.
You're
that's not
underhyping
true.
it.
That
The
iPhone-
hype is you're
Greg,
letting
that
watch
iPhone-
through
that is
3
just not
years,
true.
and your phone won't get through a day.
And
That's what's
said,
ridiculous.
Alan said earlier that the Pebble will go 6 days, right? So, I mean, it is not necessarily true that these smartwatches aren't going to have acceptable battery life. Let's wait and see what Apple comes out with, and let's see what the battery life is going to be on it.
Why gotta be Apple? Why gotta be Apple?
Because they
What's
usually do a
acceptable?
good job.
Because Craig said
They
so.
usually
That's
do a
why.
good job. They usually do a good job when they bring something out. And my point is, if they bring it out and the battery lasts, let's say, 3 days of normal use, then you charge it twice a week. That's not that big a deal. I think people make really too big a deal out of the battery thing. You know, I heard all these
Craig,
people say,
Craig.
the back of your phone won't come off. You can't switch batteries. The last thing I want to do is take the back off my phone and switch a freaking battery.
Craig, your iPhone, you don't use your iPhone like other people use their iPhone because otherwise your battery would be dead.
No, I'm just smart
Yes.
about how I use it. And if you go into the settings and
So what? You got your brightness down to
if
zero?
you go into the settings and you kill a lot of the stuff that kills
there's not
the
a lot of
battery,
people Craig's age on Tinder, so he
This
doesn't
is
do that
also
too much.
why
guys,
Craig
guys.
couldn't get in the Hangout because he's muted everything on his phone and all his
That's
devices.
right.
Listen
I mean,
carefully
you
to
know,
what Craig said.
if you kill all that horse dong, then you won't have your battery won't go
This is
dead.
the
Listen
first
to
time
what
we've
Craig
said
said.
horse dog
Craig
in the
just
program,
said-
just to know.
Listen to what Craig said. Craig just said that if you turn off all of the new features in iOS 7, your battery might live for a while.
That's right.
That's what
And,
he
and
just
there
said.
are blog posts that go through what the things that you should do if you're concerned about that, right? And even before I did that, my phone was going all day. Now it more than goes all day.
Craig admits
And I
that
charge
iOS
every night,
7
whether I need to or not. I
has
plug it
bad
in.
defaults on it. Good
Have
to
on
hear.
your phone.
Hey, I also plug my Segway in when I park it at night, even though the
Okay.
battery's not
Craig,
dead.
what
I
apps do
just
you
I
actually have on
plug
your
everything
phone?
in at night. What is the problem with that?
Craig, what apps do you actually even have on your phone?
No. Let's not go there right now,
Okay,
please.
all right,
Let's get back to watching.
That's for
I beg of you.
our
I'm
iPhone
actually-
Week
If you go to
program.
my Flickr, and search iPhone, I've published screen caps of all the apps I use because people often ask me that same question. So I've got screen caps on all of that.
All right, I'll take a look.
Yeah.
So basically, the smartwatch needs to go away, and we got glass coming out, and we're good to go.
No, even I've got to disagree with you there, Cadeas.
All right.
I think the wearables have their place, and I think I've said this before, I think having wearables in a lot of different form factors will let people find the combinations that work right for them. For me, without a doubt, glass is one of the best form factors that I've seen.
Okay.
And I think for a lot of people it would work well. For others, I think watches will work well. I think a pocket watch actually might be a really cool wearable-like device for a lot of different applications and different ones than a wristwatch or glass would do.
I think that takes away from the appeal of a smartwatch. What Craig was talking about, if you're at an event or if you're carrying groceries in or if you got a kid in the arm and you want to just quickly be able to glance and get a notification that it's your wife or husband calling or a text from your boss or, is it important or is it spam without having to, put the kid down and get your phone out.
I agree. But there are some applications that I think a pocket watch could do better at than a wristwatch or headgear. I'm not saying it's all, and I don't think it should be. What I want to see are these multiple devices that each more narrowly address something, rather than these all-in-one tablets, which are posing as phones and doing really crap jobs.
Okay, so a couple
agree
comments
with
here. Thomas Milne is laughing out loud. He says, I still use a Google Nexus with an aftermarket battery. There's some great deals if you are able to switch your battery. If you're like
Thomas, I got to tell you, Thomas, I still use my Galaxy Nexus with the original battery. Working great.
We admire your patience. Apparently, no one's.
Yeah,
I use my Galaxy S3 and
You
I
and-
carry 2 spare batteries in my pocket all day.
You and Thomas both need new phones, Alan.
We thought you were just happy to see us, Peter. Okay, Captain Euro says I wind up my watch once a day or so, but it only takes me a few seconds. Show me a phone that you can charge in 10 seconds. That would be impressive.
It's called a Google Glass. That thing charges ridiculously fast.
Really?
Yeah, because it only lasts 30 minutes.
iPhones also.
He's right. It only lasts 30 minutes if you record in video. He's right. So 100% to 0, 30 minutes.
Yeah, so it's a bad, more evidence that the movie theater guy was not actually recording the movie, according to the Rent-A-Cop guys. Okay, Charles Cortez, the real issue with the battery is that it's not wireless charging. Otherwise, more people would accept it, even if it only lasts one day. CJ, welcome, sir. Good to have you with us. Charles says, pocket watch makes no sense. Many as well pull out your phone if you're going to dig into your pocket anyways. Exactly.
Well, I disagree, but then again, I think there are valid reasons to have, one of these things that we call a phone. I just think it's a horrible form factor for a number of reasons. I think a pocket watch has a good form factor for several things, whereas this micro tablet that we carry around does not. I'm not saying it's good for everybody. I'm just saying that I think there are good applications for it.
I can see the pocket watch.
So, I mean, do you just want a Dick Tracy device, or what do you think is ideal?
No, that's my point, Peter. There is no such thing as ideal. There is ideal for you, and there is ideal for me. And I want our technology to be at a point where it's okay that I use Google Glass because it's awesome for me, and you use the Dick Tracy watch because that's what's awesome for you. And they give us the features that we individually need, without having to compromise. Let's face it, this device is a compromised device. It does almost everything, and it does almost everything badly.
Do you know, Alan, what though, if we took this, like in all the sci-fi movies, and it was strapped to your wrist, like this, full-size phone, just like when you see the astronauts, they're tapping away on their arm, it would limit the functionality and I think how often we actually use it. Maybe that'd be a good sociology experiment. Strap your phone to your wrist and see if you use it as much.
That would be an interesting question, yeah.
I mean, everybody's talking about being unplugged and, when we're on our phones all day, we're out of tune with reality. I mean, imagine strapping your phone to your wrist. Would you use it all the time if that was your primary device?
And how would you use it? Would you use it the same way as if you were fishing it out of your pocket, or would you use it the same way as... it's a good question.
What are you eating that looks so good, Peter?
He's gobbling it down super quick, too.
Yeah, reheated Little Caesars pizza.
Pizza. It's got MSG. If you have a headache tomorrow, that's why.
So
But
Dan,
anyway.
in discussing the watches, you made a comment that I very specifically wanted to reply to, and I think you even called it the most important point, but I forget exactly what it was that you said. So I'm asking you to repeat it.
Why?
Must have been very important.
It's
It
not
was
gonna.
important. It was very good, and I could summarize it, but he expressed it very well.
This is in our little chat, so I got to pull the chat up, right?
Well, it was that, or from the article. You repeated it during the show as well. It was about you wanting it
Discreet.
It was out of the way, or
Discreet, yeah. He said,
Discreet.
I want my technology to be discreet. Like the way this classy watch, where you wouldn't even know that it wasn't just a regular conventional legacy timepiece, but in fact it was Android or iOS compatible or whatever. Discreet. So it's not in your face, flashy, neon lights.
I would agree with that.
A fashion,
and that, And I think, to me, that actually speaks to the design of glass, that it is relatively discreet. Yes, it's attention-getting, but it's attention-getting in the same way that the original wristwatches were attention-getting. It's attention-getting in the same way that Cadeas's headphones are attention-getting.
I'm gonna just stop using these headphones.
No, it's a great example, Cadeus. I'm glad that you do.
For folks who don't know,
the point-
Cadeus is all the rage on Japanese television because of the headphones.
But my point is that for at least a period of time, when these technologies get introduced, they're noticed, they're visible, they want to be visible, and after some relatively short period of time, they kind of fade into the background. And I think glass is still in that period where they're noticed, but with very little change to them, they're going to fade into the background and become a stylish accessory, just like your wristwatch is a stylish accessory.
Or Michael Banks' Android figurines are stylish accessories. Michael, show us your...
Hey, Peter, here's a thought for you. What about smart cufflinks? I've seen your cufflinks. They look pretty sharp. What do you think about smart cufflinks?
I mean, I don't have enough French cuff shirts to make that practical, but, I mean, what application? I mean, like, seriously, if I were to consider that, I mean, I can't think of any other application other than a color-changing LED status to indicate something on my phone or a number.
Yes.
Or maybe that's it. Maybe
Your
purple
mood.
means I have a voicemail from my fiance. If it's red, my boss called and I didn't answer. I mean, maybe that's
audio.
maybe it's just
No,
notifications,
use
a quick way of seeing things.
It could
And
be
so
audio.
you're
I
on
mean, this
stage
is
with these
classic
colors.
Maxwell Smart stuff. This is Secret Service stuff. I've covered Obama. I mean, they actually have. Actually, I didn't see it with Obama. I saw it with Reagan, where they would actually talk in their wrist, and they would have with Reagan and Bush. I saw they would actually have these giant radios. I mean, they're like this big, and they'd had a microphone here. You could do that. You could like hit a button and talk.
You've never had a radio with an earpiece, have you?
Me?
Yeah, it's just a microphone that goes down with a push-to-talk button. There's a cable that goes up through your sleeve. It's like
No, I have
70s
an
Yeah.
IFB.
I'll
but-
buy you one. Yeah.
I'm just saying. But you
No,
can have an audio
Yeah,
interface
there's
there.
nothing high-tech about them. I mean, that's 70s tech right there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the cufflink, I mean, that's an interesting, like, that's a great application. I mean, like, say you have, 40 pixels by 40 pixels. There's a lot of information you can condense in there. And when my phone vibrates or my wrist vibrates, I can look at that and tell whether or not this is something I want to interrupt my life with. Not with so much information as to who's calling or what the message is, but knowing that a certain color or a certain number or a certain something indicates whatever information I've just recently received. And then I can easily dismiss that or, say, oh, this is urgent, I've got to deal with this.
Of course, also, it's, I mean, not universally, first of all, only men would typically have French cuffs, I guess. And most people
No,
don't
but
wear
the
French
idea is
cuffs.
simple. Is it a pin? Is it a brooch? I mean, is it whatever it is? It doesn't have to be a full color LCD display that shows text. You know what I mean?
Why-
It doesn't
why is
have
it
to
that-
emulate a phone.
Why is it that whenever we start talking about wearables, people's first thought is to have notifications? Why is the only thing that everyone's brain goes to when they have a wearable is notifications?
Because it's the most
Because
obvious
we already
one.
have the sensors. I mean, the Fitbit does that. I mean, what else do you want to do?
Oh, what about as an input device? And that's, I think, what people
Right.
keep getting hung up on is, oh, I don't have a keyboard, I don't know what I'm going to do. One of the neat things about this watch that they were talking about is that the bezel itself is part of the control. And that's a great new input device.
Also,
Okay.
if you talk about wearables generically, people would talk about something you'd wear on your person, and so notifications are the obvious thing, and a watch comes to mind. Glass is unique. It's a subcategory of wearable, and because it's always in your periphery, and potentially you could turn it on at any time, that has additional features that aren't practical for other forms of wearables. Glass
But-
is a much more visual thing, which gives you a whole bunch of new things, right? I mean, you guys,
Right, but Dan,
glass.
Cadeus's point is that there's more to wearables than telling us stuff. It's us telling them stuff. It's what are the controls that we have. To use the cufflinks as an example, as a purely hypothetical example, what if turning a cufflink means something?
I think that wearables will go more of us telling it stuff passively, like getting ads or it tracking your eye. I think we're not going to tell it directly. I think it's just going to get stuff from us.
But that's an interesting point that you both made, and I want to combine those.
I'm sorry, the cufflink example. What about zippers? If you if you put your
think
zipper
about it.
halfway down, it can
you guys
notify
Dan?
someone.
Oh dear
You
God,
guys
here
use
we
the predicative
go.
search
Going down the
keyboard,
hole.
such
Here
as
we go.
SwiftKey. Have any of you guys used SwiftKey?
Yes, I've used
SwiftKey is absolutely amazing. It analyzes your textual behavior based on whatever you link it to. You can do your SMS messages, you can do Gmail, but it studies the behavior of contextual input, which is exactly what we're talking about. The thing I love about it is if I'm busy or have a situation where I only have one hand, I could sit there. You remember when we used to do T9 and you'd wear your thumb out trying to send a 10-character text message? Well, I can sit there and type the first letter to every word I'm trying to say, and 7 out of 10 times with the first letter of the word, it'll know what word I'm trying to do next. So all I have to do is type one letter and confirm that's what I want. And with people, quadriplegics, for example, people where we've been doing this eye tracking movement and trying to come up with a contextual input for them for text. I mean, the technology, the AI in these new smart keyboards is to the point where if you had a control surface, I really only think like a stenographer would do, you'd only have to have a couple buttons. Either you enter the first letter and confirm that's the word I'm looking for. So I think when we think of input devices, when we can't do voice to text, that's the one big impracticality about glass, is I can't sit there in a public place and talk to myself. It is, at this point, socially unacceptable, and if we all sat at the bar trying to do bark voice commands into glass, all the glass would be doing what everybody else was talking about. It's a very terrible input system. But I think with this new contextual typing that we're seeing through apps like SwiftKey, you don't have to have the full QWERTY keyboard that you're used to, and just a couple taps can get the whole word across. I mean, I think that's a great idea. If somebody can figure out how to put that in the sleeve of my jacket, then we've got a new input device.
I think what we really need is all to go back and learn Morse code so we can start tapping Morse code onto the cufflink.
That was the 4th of the April Fool's joke. What was that, 2 years ago from Google? Gmail tap.
That's right.
Yeah.
Actually, there was an interesting, some interesting contest done at one point, back again with the T9 keyboard, testing whether you could send stuff faster with T9 or Morse code, and the Morse code won every time. Bring back Morse code. I think this is a great idea.
It never left.
This is true. It's gotten a lot less popular. It's no longer required. That's it. It used to be required that you know Morse code in order to get your ham license. I think you need to learn Morse code in order to be able to use the internet. That's what it's going to be.
Good luck with
They
that.
should have kept those rules in place.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No.
No.
So any further thoughts on wearables since? Wow, I think we've actually gone 40 minutes on this topic. And considering this is probably the most interesting topic tonight.
So here's my question for the panel, though. Does anybody here, apart from Google Glass and biometric scanners like Fitbit, have any other wearables?
I have used a Pebble, but only briefly.
Okay. Because I use Glass and the Fitbit little bit thing, this cheap one.
Before Glass, I had the job on up.
Bluetooth LE.
Bluetooth, okay, interesting.
Okay, yeah. Bluetooth, yeah. And then
But so nobody does the wristwatch, or I mean, I guess that's the only other wearable. How many of us have the biometric sensor? I have the Fitbit. Anybody else use one? No? Okay.
Nope.
I'm holding off. I was about to get the Nike Fuel thing in the watch.
No, I have the Jawbone Up. I have that.
Well, I just find it funny. Out of what are there? 7 of us here. Only 2 of us have a biometric that we wear. That's crazy.
I'm holding off. I'm waiting for 2.0 to come out.
Pam Adger asks...
Waiting to see what Apple comes out with?
Of course not. It'd be overpriced. I couldn't afford it.
Do you know what it's going to be called? I'm going to tell you what it's going to be called. It's going to be called the Core.
The Apple device?
Yeah, it's going to be called
the Apple Core. The Apple Core.
That's what they're going to call their biometric.
I better register.
Guarantee
that.
it.
Pam asks, do you think these watches are applicable to women?
Of course. They make a female version, or make it pink.
If they
Yeah,
make it
instead of
stylish, if they
640
make
by
it look
480,
good.
they'll be 320 by 280.
And it can be paper white.
Michael, did you really just say if they make it pink?
I mean, it's gonna happen. I mean,
He
neon
did.
pink.
Oh, boy.
I mean,
Oh,
They'll be
boy.
dazzle-it.
But Dora
Charles
the
Cortez
Explorer-
asked about a smart ring. Boy, you talk about a battery challenge. What are you eating, Michael Ellis? That looks good. Are you eating pizza as well?
Peanut butter and jelly.
Old
A
school.
peanut butter and jelly pizza?
No pizza, just peanut butter and jelly on bread. The classic.
With probably fancy red wine.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Are we good on this? And we'll get to your app, right?
Well, it's not just my app, but I think we're good on this.
Okay, so next up is more glassware is available through My Glass, and I would just mention that Alan is a GDE, the first and currently only. I forget what GDE means already. Because I'm-
Goddamn egotist.
Oh my God! It's only funny because Ellis said it.
Oh, God.
Michael never cusses.
Oh, God.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so oh,
We need to clarify a
he
couple
said-
of things, though.
we can clarify one thing. He's had more wine than peanut butter and jelly tonight. Tell us what a GDE is, and tell us what My Glass is, and tell us what this is about.
Sure. So GDEs are the Google Developer Experts. They're about 100 people who Google recognizes as some of the best developers in various Google technologies. I am the first Google Developer Expert for Glass. And that is completely unrelated to the fact that I finally got some glassware that I produced that is now available through what they call My Glass, which is the web application or the Android or iOS application that lets you control what glassware you have running on your glass or that works with your glass. So there are about 40 pieces of glassware right now. I was the 39th. You can roughly think of My Glass as the equivalent of the iTunes App Store or the Play Store. It's not exactly the same, but it's the rough equivalent. So I launched Voodoo this week on Monday. Now available for thousands of Glass users out there. I encourage people to try it out.
Can you tell us what it does, Alan?
Yeah.
Why would I tell you that? Just try it out. It'll be awesome. No.
I don't have glass.
Well, get Glass then. This is a solvable problem, really. What Voodoo does is it serves as a bridge between Google Glass and Google Drive. So I could put a file into a folder on Google Drive. It'll show up on Glass. I can take a picture or dictate a note on Glass. It will show up in a folder on Google Drive. And some of the advantages to this are, since I'm using Drive, this folder can be shared with other people. So if I want to, so if people want to send me stuff, they can just drop it into this folder, and I'll get it. If I take a note that other people are going to be working on at the same time, I can dictate it. It shows up in that shared folder, and they've got immediate access to whatever pictures I took, whatever notes I've dictated, so that sort of thing. They can immediately incorporate it. My kind of goal with this was to say, okay, what business processes are people using? What's the workflow that people have as part of their business? What are they doing with their spreadsheets? What are they doing with their docs? And how can I tie that into how people are using Google Glass?
This would be kind of cool in a situation in a manufacturing plant where the maintenance guys are looking at the equipment and they have to communicate back to the, say, the manufacturer of the machine tool, for example, to describe what's wrong, and they can interactively be using Glass to see different parts of the machine while it's operating.
That's actually an interesting application. One of the early ones that one of my early testers used a lot. He's a home inspector, so he would go to the houses that he was inspecting. He would take pictures and immediately share it to Drive. He would dictate his notes. They would and send them directly to Drive. Then when he got back to his computer, he had this collection of pictures and notes just sitting in this folder, and he essentially just cut and pasted them right into his report. So
my brother was an insurance inspector, a claim adjuster for that kind of thing, and that would be a perfect application for that.
Right. Same sort of thing. Being able to access the information in one place and handle it in a much more appropriate environment, and do it in a way that's seamless. Just make it part of your workflow. And that's kind of what I was aiming for, was to make it so that it wasn't this additional, oh, you need to upload it here and then download it to here and then move it over to here. Just make it part of what you're already doing, or make it part of what you can already be doing, or just a natural extension of things. To me, Glass is a natural extension of what I do and how I do it. If I can get others to treat it the same way for their jobs, for the things that they do, for the way that they work with their families and friends, that's crucial to me. That's crucial to Glass. We have this comment from Thomas saying, there are no wonderful videos showcasing your application. Yes, I know, I'm working on it. It is in some ways kind of difficult to demonstrate this. By the way, Mike Banks, Pam has this one directed at you.
Yeah, you got a little bit of hate in the comments, Michael. Thanks.
Jeez.
I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that I facepalmed when he said that. We did all see this. Charles, in addition, points out quite correctly today's history lesson, pink used to be a boy's color. This is entirely true.
Oh boy, Michael.
I might have to wear a pink shirt next week.
And Charles even points out why. You guys are great in the comments. Great to see all of this. So that's Voodoo, and I'm very excited about its prospects. We've got some great stuff coming down the road. Had some great feedback already, and I'm excited to see how everyone reacts to how it's working and what's coming next.
Well, let me say congratulations, because I think this is very cool that you've gotten this to fruition. Exciting stuff. You've been working on Glass since the beginning, it seems, and this is a very neat application that has real use.
It is, and that's kind of was my goal with it, is to create something that was real, that could be used by people. This actually was, you say I've been doing this since the beginning. This product grew out of what I did for the Glass Foundry 13 months ago. So this was a direct outgrowth of what I did then, and it's evolved into this product. So, it's taken longer than I would have liked, but I'm glad to see that it finally got there. And it's just the beginning.
Okay,
but I have to say that mine was not the only great glassware that was released this week. Probably one of the most anticipated ones that finally came out is the LynxFit application. Cadeus, have you had a chance to play with LynxFit yet?
I have not. I have another one of the developers that I work with. He has been playing with it. I was trying to get his input on it when he was using it a lot, but I haven't heard much on it from him again. So I'm going to actually reach out to him right now and find out what his perspective was.
Yeah. So those of you who don't know, LynxFit is I guess the best. I'm probably not doing it anywhere near adequate justice. It is a fitness training application. So it kind of guides you on a 1 week or a 30-day or a whatever fitness program that you select, but every day it gives you different challenges, measures your performance on each of those challenges, lets you know how well you're doing. If you choose, let others know how well you're doing in that. And it's all done through Glass. So it knows, for example, how many squats you've done. And as it's going, it's encouraging you to keep going, to keep doing better. It is. I've only seen early demos of it. I have not installed the latest version, and I'm really looking forward to. But even then, it was very cool what Noble Ackerson and the rest of his team did. They were really pushing Glass to its limits on what can be done.
I'm not one to work out, so.
You know what? I'm not either, and I think this may be. We'll see. This may be the app that gets me to do it. And I think part of the reason why is, I don't like going to the gym because it's boring as hell. This is the sort of thing that will keep count of what I'm doing for me. It takes some of the drudgery away, and at the same time is constantly encouraging me with how I'm doing. So, we'll see. I don't know if this is going to be the app that does it for me, but I'm hoping it is.
Do you have any metrics on usage yet?
I have some, but not a huge amount. Part of it is the way that I'm collecting things. I need to sit down and sift through it a little bit. But from what I've seen of, let me try to find my graph here. From what I've seen, I am doing better than I expected this quickly out of the gate. So I'm incredibly pleased with how my system is handling the load, the sudden increase in load, and how many people have signed up for it and are using it.
You would be an excellent corporate PR spokesperson.
You mean the fact that I could give you an answer without actually answering your question?
A non-denial denial, a non-answer answer, yeah.
We're going to have to rename you Hillary Clinton.
Let's put it this way. I have numbers. I'm not at a point where I'm comfortable releasing them, partly because I don't know how those stack up. So until I get a better idea on how it's really stacking up, I don't want to say too much. But my initial estimates for what the response rate would be were much lower than what it's been so far.
Well, there's thousands of Glass users, and I would figure my guess would have been basically. I mean, there's only like 30 different Glass apps, right? I mean, it's
40
not,
now.
40. So my guess is that all of them would try all of them once, right?
Well, they would certainly try many of them, right?
Well, but here's the thing:
have
if
some
I'm
relevance.
telling you, I'm pretty upfront about what it does. It exchanges files with Google Drive. If you've never touched Google Drive before, you're not going to install it.
Right. Yeah, to someone
I suppose, but
it would be a boring niche app to someone who's not, a Drive user.
But wouldn't it?
There are some apps here, Dan, that I've never even loaded up on my Glass. So I mean,
you're not subscribed to the Elle magazine.
No, I'm not. I don't even know what that is.
There's an Elle magazine app for Glass,
yeah,
really?
I skipped right on past that.
Kadeus, you need to get your Glass in gear.
Yeah, and there's
Elle is in rare form tonight.
There's a lot of it. There's a lot of them I didn't subscribe to.
Kadeus, Pink is the new Baby Blue.
The new black.
Elle is
Look,
the new
don't try to back me into this corner. That was Michael Banks that did all that. don't even involve me in that. No, but like the Strava run, I don't run, so it's not something that I would do. I tried the Strava cycling. I tried it. I mean, there's just things here that I don't. New York Times, I am not loading that up. So I mean, like there are things here I'm not gonna even touch.
If anyone, with the exception of Craig, if anyone can figure out why the skinniest people in this show never exercise, and why guys like me have to go to Gold's Gym and aren't the skinniest guys in the room, I would appreciate if you could figure that out. Maybe we need some GMO for some of us.
Well, I will say it has something to do with 20 or 30 years difference.
Yeah.
And I exercise daily. I exercise every morning pretty much.
Well, you're in the military. I mean, you're no joke. You could probably take all of us.
With his pinky.
Yeah, slam, bam, done. Next.
Sorry, that was not a reference to the color of your anything.
Says the guy with the pink striped shirt.
Exactly.
This is red, not pink.
Sure.
It depends on the lighting.
I like
Everything's
shade red,
subjective.
right?
All right, are we good on this?
Yes.
Did I mention that Alan is a GDE? All right, so next
Yeah,
up.
but you still don't remember what one is.
Yes, I already
Well, you can't
defined it
remember
for you.
what city I live in, let alone anything else.
I think Michael Ellis's definition of GDE was the one to jot down for anyone following the
Should
program.
go in the YouTube notes.
Absolutely. Okay, so next up, this is a weird. We've never covered. There have been many firsts. We've never had Craig Shipp publicly called out for being right multiple times in the same program. So I'm excited about that milestone. And also, we've never talked about the technology of coffee pots and rights management issues involving coffee pots on Google Plus Week before. So this is kind of a crazy story, but it's fun and interesting. You know those Keurig coffee pots where you put the little pod in and you put the water in, or you have a tank. Mine has a tank. I got like there's like a $100 version, like $200 version, and I got the one from Costco. And you put the little pod in, and then it makes you a little tiny cup of coffee. But what's interesting is they lost their patent in 2012, 2 years ago. So now you're seeing generic, not affiliated with but compatible with Keurig coffee pot pods. Because when they first came out, you could get them for like 50 cents a piece, and maybe a little more if you were in a local grocery store. In Costco, you could get the big giant box. I think it was like 188 or something, and but it was a lot of them, and it was about 50 cents a piece, 45 cents to 55 cents, but limited selection.
Right.
And it would be usually the darker roast, which, not to be give too much information, but the darker roasts have a a mild laxative effect compared to the breakfast blends. But anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. So anyway, what they're doing is they're taking a page from the the inkjet printer manufacturers, that technology, and they're introducing DRM, digital rights management, if you will. That's what it's being compared to for these coffee pods. So the new Keurig pots will brew a bigger cup, and there'll be some sort of technology that it won't work unless it's an official Keurig pod. Green Mountain is the company that makes the coffee pot and licenses. So if you get like whatever brand of coffee, and it somewhere on there it'll say Green Mountain, it's all licensed, and if not manufactured by them, it's licensed by them. So anyway, I just want to see what you guys thought. It's inkjet printers. You can buy them for like $20-30, and they make their money on the cartridges. And you can buy them for a lot more than that, right? But I just think this is interesting, and one company's suing them. But I just wanted to get you guys' opinion on this. I kind of see both sides on this. While it's bad for the consumer that they can't, you can't have a Great Value brand or a Costco, a Kirkland Signature Series brand coffee pods, or etc. I just want to see what you guys thought about this. Should this be illegal, or is this just
No, I think they should be encouraged to do this. I think this is a great move. This is a wonderful move because it'll finally drive these guys out of business.
Why do you want them to be out of business?
Yeah, well, what's wrong?
Because although I like the technology, I think the implementation is horrible. Do you know how much plastic? I mean, essentially, you're boiling your water through this plastic thing that's adding who knows what chemicals to pretty heavily chemicaled water, and then you're throwing it out. So how much waste is generated from these? One of the things that this ends up blocking are the people that made reusable pods, so that you could add your own coffee to this reusable pod and use the hardware, but create the blend that you want to create. So instead of creating the blend that they are shoving down your throat, literally.
Well, I agree with with your assessment of the technology that's terribly wasteful. On the other hand, if you are a person who drinks a cup of coffee in the morning, it's a much more efficient way of making coffee for yourself. Now, but the reusable pod would be the answer to that. The problem is the economic model doesn't work because they priced the Keurig machine to be dirt cheap so that you would buy the pods from them, of course. I bought 100 of these coffee pots a few years ago to use in a specific application, and they were great. They worked out beautifully.
How would you like it if those pods suddenly stopped working past a expiration date?
Well, that wouldn't make me very happy.
No, it wouldn't. And yet that's certainly something that they could do with this.
But listen, if you're going to, I mean, the reusable pod is kind of a, doesn't make any sense because the whole point of this is that you don't have to like measure something and pour it in the thing and clean it afterwards.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
that's
totally
the whole
about
point
the
of this.
convenience of it, for sure.
Yeah, you pay a
But
premium
Alan's
for
point
that.
is still valid that the convenience factor is on the plus side, but the negative is it generates a huge amount of waste. The plastic is almost as much as the coffee that's being used. And I didn't even think about the chemicals being added to the drink you're consuming.
And you know, there are a lot of ways that you can have single-serving coffee pots.
Yes,
There's,
of course.
You know, there are, you know, coffee pots. There are coffee machines.
I mean,
that
espresso
go
machines
right
are
into
single-serving coffee pots.
That's true. I was thinking more of the coffee machines that pour directly into a coffee mug. You just need to add the coffee to it, and it takes care of the rest still. I think. I don't know. I don't drink this stuff, so.
My parents are 76, and they love their Keurig machine, and they have a variety of little things. And when we go, you know, for Thanksgiving or whatever event it is, they'll have, you know, what you want, tea, or you want the Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, hey, there's a
brand or
great
whatever.
idea. Make it so that the Thanksgiving blend automatically, you know, expires on December 1st. I love that idea.
How would you make it expire?
It's DRM. I just have to encode the pod such that it knows that it expires as of a date, and it'll refuse to process it without, you know, a properly dated pod.
See.
All right, force prediction.
That's the beauty of DRM. I control what you do with your hardware.
And for the 1% of our viewers who don't know what DRM is, that's digital rights management. It's what you see on like downloaded music files, where unless you're a subscriber, you can't play it, etc. Quick force prediction, starting from Alan and then down to
Michael Ellis.
Michael, everyone else. Yeah, Michael Ellis. Will the introduction of this DRM, will the public even notice? Will there be any impact on sales of these very popular coffee pots? I don't think there's... Well, actually, two questions. One, is there a legal issue here? Or is this like they're fine to do it? Because it's not a monopoly situation at all. There are plenty of coffee pots. There's a whole section in Walmart or Costco, or, you know, with coffee pots. So it's not a big deal. It's not like, you know, Standard Oil. So A, is there a legal issue? B, are the consumers going to react negatively to this? Or are they going to just get away with it and so on? Alan?
Well, I'm going to answer B first. No, they won't get away with it. And the reason why they won't is because there are going to be others that are offering the hardware for less, that are offering the pods for less, and there is no advantage to the consumer for this new technology. There just isn't any. You know, they've been able to get away with including DRM in books, in movies, and music because they introduced a convenience factor at the same time. The convenience factor is already there. They can't make it more convenient. So that's why I think this will ultimately fail. As for whether it's legal, no, there's no monopoly issue here. I wouldn't have even thought to raise that. That's not the legal question. The legal question
in the story that someone's suing them saying it's anti-competitive, but I don't think it is because there are plenty of options for.
I don't think it's
pod style
anti-competitive.
individual serving coffee pots. I mean, this is just one of many brands.
I don't think it's anti-competitive. I would kind of wonder if they can enforce. What's the right way to put this? If I reverse engineer the DRM method, I'm not sure there is anything they can do to prevent me from reverse engineering it. The only reason why DRM is effective on books, movies, and music is because those things are copyrighted, and DRM has the force of law in enforcing copyright. That's what that's part of what the various copyright laws allow for. There is, well, the printer ink one, if I remember correctly, did get settled in favor of the printer manufacturers. So
because that's a very healthy market.
Yeah. So maybe
I mean, a very healthy competitively market. There's many manufacturers of printers.
If it really came down to it, I think there might be some legal. What is it? The principle of first purchase, I think, might apply such that since I've bought this coffee pot, I have the right to do with it what I want. That might apply in this case. It's an interesting question. I don't know.
And just like in effect, jailbreaking your Keurig coffee pot would be legal.
Yeah.
After you own it.
Yeah.
Is that a
yes,
analogy?
that's the analogy. Quick comments from Chad. I see the DRM not lasting very long. I wouldn't think there's a legal issue, but he agrees the reusable pod is the only way to go, especially cost-wise.
I don't agree with that. I can buy. I like 8 o'clock coffee. I just tried Maxwell House, and I got to tell you, I don't know what's gone wrong with Maxwell House, but
it's not nearly as good as 8 o'clock brand.
Yeah, 8 o'clock is fantastic. But I just, what I do is I do 5 cups, and they're coffee cups, which I think are 6 ounces instead of a traditional 8-ounce cup. Coffee is measured in different cup sizes. But I put 5 cups. I put a quarter, I think it's a quarter cup of coffee and a quarter cup of Splenda in the coffee pot. And hit go, and it works. And that's a whole lot cheaper. It's not as quick and easy as the Keurig, but my Keurig started to leak. And so, but I think they're really cool about, like, if you call them, they'll fix it even if it's out of warranty, is what I heard.
Mike, let me just I just want to say something quickly. I started looking up the printer ink DRM stuff. Remember, Michael, how you kind of poo-pooed the concept of pod expiration dates? Printer ink cartridges have expiration dates built into their DRM.
Really?
So whether or not it's out of ink, they'll shut down. That's one of the issues with them now.
That's outrageous. So, shut down in what way? They'll give you an error message, or they'll start.
They'll give you an error
not
message
printing correctly.
Yeah, or like the printer's out of ink, even though the cartridge full.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and in some ways there's some logic behind that, because if you've got this cartridge sitting there for 2 years, it may have dried up by then. But if it's dried up, that's fine.
Powdered and not dry.
There.
I could tell you that the biggest ripoff in the world that I can think of is ink, and I'm literally a guy who buys ink by the barrel and paper by the ton. I publish newspapers, and I could tell you that the ink that the Journal in Martinsburg, it's like $30 to $40 a gallon, maybe. Say $30 a gallon. An inkjet cartridge, if you do the math, if you actually look at, find it your HP inkjet or whatever box, and you look, it's 0.05 milliliters or whatever it is, you'll find that the cost for your inkjet printer, as opposed to newsprint, which is what we use with like $30 a gallon, it's, I swear to God, I'm not making this up, it's like $10,000 per gallon. That's what you're paying at home. I can buy ink for $30 a gallon. You're paying $10,000 a gallon. That's why you can buy a $30 inkjet printer, which obviously costs much more than that to make, because they do make their money off the coffee pods, if you will. Alan, are we going to see a big thing on eBay of the original version of the Keurig coffee pots without the DRM? That would be an interesting meme, wouldn't it? Like, get it, but without...
Maybe, but I doubt it, because once again, there's going to be plenty of competitors out there.
There already are.
I'm still getting this "are you still there" thing. Okay. Cadeas, do you think there's a legal issue about it's being anti-competitive to other companies that want to make knockoffs? A. B, do you think there will be a consumer backlash of any kind, or they don't care?
I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't even know really how to weigh in on all this.
What if there was sushi DRM? Then you'd be outraged.
I'm not a sushi eater either. So, but anyway, for the second question, I don't see
Wait a minute. I'm friends with you? I don't know about that. We're going to have to reevaluate this.
But
why are we letting him on the show anyway, Dan?
He's so ex-panelist material.
Well, anyway, I don't think I think that if they, what's the name of the people? If they have
Keurig.
whatever the name of the people is, if
He
they
doesn't
have
even know coffee, basic
yeah,
coffee
I don't know
names.
coffee at all. I won't even let Charlie drink coffee half the time. But if they have a big enough brand, I don't think that people will really be affected by it going DRM, because they won't see any difference unless they go overboard, like you said, turn it off at Thanksgiving and the whole 9 yards. As far as the legal thing, I think they have a right to lock down their own platform if they want to. So, I mean, yeah.
Okay, so
well, hang on a second. Let me take
boy.
that, and I understand that angle. So you feel it's okay to not have control of something that you bought, that you've paid money for?
Well, in the beginning, I didn't feel this way, but I mean, the whole entire tech world has started going down this road, whether it's iTunes Music, if it's, so I mean, I've gotten so used to people locking this stuff down. Let them lock it down. That's all they ever do.
But it's different, Cadeas, because the other content we're talking about being locked down, as Alan pointed out earlier, is copyrighted. And copyright is a very different thing than locking down physical hardware.
Yeah, but I have my own opinion on copyright too. So
Cadeas, well, we know you've got an opinion on. You do have this opinion on copyright, and that would actually support the case for being able to hack your coffee pot.
Yeah. It's just that I don't have any interest in coffee, so I don't really see. But I get.
So it's all right with you if they lock down my copyrighted or my content that I care about, but not if you care about the content.
God forbid, they try to lock down video that happened outside. That's a whole.
That's what I thought.
Well, there is an argument to be made that you get a patent for X number of years, right? And their patent expired, but now they're coming up. So that's the gripe. And the gripe is that the consumer is going to pay more because of their inflated prices for these coffee pods, licensing fees, which subsidize the relatively low cost for these coffee pods. But the other side of the coin is they're making a new version of it, and it's not like they have a monopoly. Michael Banks, do you think that there is a legal issue that this is a monopoly? A,
No.
And B, do you think there will be a consumer backlash or nobody cares?
No, I don't think there's a legal issue because, I mean, like it's been said, others do it all the time in the tech industry. And I think that, like Alan said, there's enough other competition where there's no monopoly, really. But as far as the other part, I mean, it could go either way, to be honest. Either they're going to stay and deal with it, or they're going to leave and get something else.
Are you a coffee drinker, Michael Banks?
I do the Starbucks thing every now and then, but it's only like stay awake. It's not out of pleasure.
I am a coffee drinker. Michael Ellis, any final thoughts before we switch to our less interesting topics?
Whatever our next topic is. No, my only comment is that the younger people on the panel don't drink coffee, and I'll just add the word "yet" to that.
Well, you might as well just leave period on that. I will never even drink coffee. I won't even try it. So
Lots of people say that.
Michael,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm probably around the same age as you are, and I don't touch the stuff.
Okay.
I've never even tried to sip it. I'm not
I
interested.
find it one of the most vile tasting concoctions ever created.
Wow.
Smells
Okay.
wonderful. I love the smell of brewing coffee. This is one of those cases, though, where it tastes so much worse than it smells.
Good for you. Are you non-caffeine drinkers or just non-coffee drinkers? In other
I
words,
drink
like,
bottled waters. That's it.
I am not significantly affected by caffeine.
Does that mean you don't drink it?
I don't drink much.
Mm-hmm.
There certainly was a time when I drank a lot and it didn't do anything for me.
Mm-hmm. Personally, I adore coffee, and I have for a long time. But
I
what
drink
turned me
coffee.
really
Totally
turned me
agree.
onto it was adding whipping cream to my coffee.
Real whipped cream?
Whipping
Real-
cream, not
real
whipped.
whipping-
Whipping. Yes.
Okay.
Oh my
Full
God!
fat cream.
What's the
Yeah.
difference? Is this like yams and sweet potatoes? What's the
No.
difference
No,
between
no.
whipping cream?
No. Whipping cream is what you make whipped cream out of.
Correct.
You whip the cream to get
Oh
the
my
whipped
God.
cream. He's talking about actually just pouring in
Full fat cream.
In honor
What is that?
of the fact that Martha Stewart did an epic AMA on Reddit, we wanted to give you some culinary tips.
That's my role in the show
Some
tonight.
helpful
Well, every
culinary
night.
tips.
Well, we would point out that Michael's culinary tips so far tonight are red wine, peanut butter and jelly, and whipping cream.
And whipping
coffee.
cream in coffee.
And damn it, my shirt's not pink. It's red.
But
Pam, you guys ask me if I drink caffeine. Pam points out that I've got a wall of Coke cans.
that's a good
None
point.
of which I-
Touche.
None of which I have drunk. They are gifts. I tend
Yes,
not to
because
drink much
at
Coke.
all holidays, even though Alan is a rare hybrid of a Jewish Mormon non-caffeine drinker, people do gift in his holiday seasons. They gift Coke cans in his family. So
Does it
I'm
not
totally
tempt you being on the
convinced.
wall, Alan? Does it
Yeah, why would
not
it?
tempt you? Oh, I'm just wondering. Some people that get under their skin, eventually they'd at least have one. So I'm
simple
just curious.
question.
Oh, I mean,
Simple question.
it's not that I don't drink Coke. It's that I don't drink it all that often.
But
Yeah.
whenever you decide you want to drink it, there's one behind you you can try.
No, they're empty.
No, they're empty.
Oh, they're empty. So who drunk them?
I don't know. Whoever
Oh,
gave
God.
it to me. I didn't go to Saudi Arabia to get a can of Coke. Somebody else did.
The collection started and just grew from there.
Yeah. Actually, the collection did start with a bottle that I did drink.
More
No, it's not
evidence.
true. I didn't drink that first one, but
Okay, so
We have more topics, I believe.
we do. So moving
This would
right
be a
along.
good time to move on.
Not that I don't want to discuss Saudi Arabian Coke, but we do have a
Coca-Cola, just to be clear.
Coca-Cola, the soft.
but we do have these other vitally interesting topics, such
No,
And the
as
fact
I
that
wanna-
Dan went blurry.
Let's go with basically here. I'm going to do a brief intro, and then I want to go to Cadeas.
Dan, can you adjust your focus?
no,
Or
it's
I'm
only
going to
for us.
fall
Michael.
over.
It's only.
Oh.
But
I'm
here's the
fine
problem,
for those.
Dan.
Yeah, for the viewers, I'm fine. Okay, so Newsweek did a cover story. It was actually an incredibly interesting story, and the one thing we can all agree on is that this cover picture was just badass. I mean, awesome. So they uncovered.
There we go. When you hit up Guy's Burger Joint on Carnival Cruise Lines and load up a juicy burger with fresh toppings,
from
guess how
AP
much you have to
where the
pay?
guy
Go ahead.
denied it.
Exactly. Nothing. Not a zilch. Just like all your included meals on Carnival. It's just part of your cruise price. So check out Guy's Burger Joint on Carnival Cruise Line and get yourself a righteous burger.
There was a big backlash on the internet. Reddit. It was an invasion of privacy. They should have left him alone. And so our expert here is Cadeas, who knows a whole lot more about Bitcoin than I do.
Your article, The Face
I swear
of
to God,
Bitcoin has exploded.
I've read the entire Wikipedia article like 3 times. I've had conversations about it. I understand. I've talked to
I was expecting a lot
people
of
who support it.
discussion in the wake
I
of the
think
story.
it's a complete Ponzi scheme and ridiculous. I don't totally understand
Dan,
it.
do we need to go over how the U.S. dollar is also a Ponzi scheme?
Now, I'm not disputing that, but
Dan, you have music playing over the live feed.
Apparently, nobody is going into Fort Knox and stealing everyone's dollars. And
Dan, you have advertisements playing over the live feed.
It's hard to
You have loud advertising playing over the live feed.
Care about them or about Satoshi.
Oh my
who,
God!
In my mind, invented
Yeah, it's extremely loud too. And
You talk about
Charlie came running in here going, "It's way too loud."
I apologize. And
Nobody
now
heard
everyone's
anything
gonna
you said. It was just
everyone's gonna
blaring.
be mad at me for the next 30 seconds because there's a 30-second delay. I just
Yeah,
cut it
now-
off now.
And Google's going to be mad because they didn't get their piece of that money.
And it was
for
from
the-
Newsweek.
And I'll probably get a copyright strike on the music.
Yeah.
Watch. I better check my YouTube.
Oh, man.
So anyway, okay. So I want to get Cadeas's thoughts on was it was it appropriate?
Bitcoin.
I think it was just straight up good journalism. They found the guy allegedly. Do you think it's the guy? And any thoughts you have at all? And
Good journalism.
You know,
How
what
is
do you
that
think?
good journalism?
I mean, you think most people who are
Freaking look
discovered, who
up
are
like,
hiding,
really,
want to be
it's
found?
She found somebody that wasn't who it was. And secondly, why is that relevant? Who created the Bitcoin? I don't even understand why that's even relevant.
Well, it's a cover story, and we're talking about it. Everyone's talking about it. That makes it
Right,
relevant.
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, for everybody, why is that important?
News is by definition news. And the
Dan,
news
you're missing what I'm
makers do
saying,
not
Dan, already.
determine whether
Dan,
they're news.
Dan, you're missing what I'm saying already. Why is the fact that we need to know the maker of Bitcoin relevant? That's the question for everybody.
Because it's constantly in the news. Bitcoin is, and the guy is.
No, Dan, you're wrong.
He's hidden, and
Dan, stop.
So
stop.
people want to discover him.
Dan, stop embarrassing yourself. Kadeas, the reason why.
Because I don't know anything. I don't know dick about news. Right? Go ahead.
Right.
Right. That's it.
No, the reason why it's important, Cadeas,
Okay.
is because in some ways in not knowing, it went to the credibility of the system itself. It went to the motivations for it being created. There was a lot of questions being raised about it that kind of went into all of these things. You know, did this person create Bitcoin to demonstrate a fundamental flaw in the economic system of the world? Did this person create Bitcoin to show off their mathematical prowess? Those are why it's relevant who this guy is.
Okay, so let's say he did do this to demonstrate blank, blank, blank. Or let's say he did do this to show off his mathematical blank, blank, blank. That's still not relevant to the function of the currency. Honestly, because Bitcoin is open source, we can see the source code. So one of the things people were screaming about online is that, well, maybe he was scamming, maybe there's this. We can look through all that and see exactly what's happening in the source code.
But here's the thing, Cadeas. In the same way that we want to know who ESR is, or who Richard Stallman is, or who any of a number of other open development people are, because we want to understand their motivation for doing it. And Stallman has been very, very clear about what his motivations are for creating open source software. In the same way that we then turn around and go to Microsoft and say, what are your motivations for not open sourcing your stuff? Because that's important to understand what you are as a company. So understanding motivations is important. That said, it's not the be-all and end-all about Bitcoin.
Right, of course. This was a waste of time.
I don't think it's a waste of time.
To chase.
I think it's important. I mean, I think it's a waste of time if you're trying to understand if you're trying to understand how Bitcoin works and why you might want to be involved in it, it's a bit of a waste of time. But if you're trying to understand the bigger picture, it's not.
Like if we were making a
hold on one
documentary
second, Kadeas. Hang on one second. Let me say this. I disagree with Alan. I think the immediate reason he would deny it is he's afraid of getting sued or locked up, because you just had this company go bankrupt because they got ripped off because of a flaw. Also, some legislators in multiple countries are saying that this is a way for drug dealers to hide their assets, etc. And he's afraid of the legal ramifications if he is the founder. If this is the guy, and thus he would be lying when he says he's not the guy, if that's the case, big if, then I think his fear of civil and criminal liability in multiple countries is the reason he would deny it more than anything else. Not to diminish Alan's point, because this guy's a big thinker and I don't understand this stuff. Go ahead, Kadeas.
I see, if we were making a documentary on the history, I know that I get that aspect of trying to, like, where did Bitcoin start, blah, blah, blah. But it seems as though basically the media has painted this and Bitcoin into such a negative light for the longest time. And it just seems like, especially how they chased them and the whole, it just seems like they're just trying to just get the next story. And
well, there I'll agree with you, Kadeas.
Okay.
There's no denying the news value, though, Alan, right? I mean, there's no denying that it has been in the news. It's a whole new concept, and the value has dropped by 50%.
But Dan, here's the problem. Here's the problem, though, Dan. Just because most of the people who are hearing about it don't understand it, including just about every single person reporting on it in the mainstream media, including you,
guilty.
Understanding who this guy is doesn't help you understand any of that.
Right. It's just it's not important. Is
right.
The problem? It's totally unimportant.
You're going after this guy, and I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off today.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
You're going after this guy not for the news value. You're going after this guy for the sensationalist value, and there is a difference between the two. News should inform and help people understand. Sensationalism should help newspapers. Help sell newspapers, sorry.
And sorry, Dan, I'm totally against sensationalism. I always have been. So yes, that burns me up every time that happens.
And Dan is once again reconsidering why you're on the panel.
He's so last week's panel. Any other thoughts on this? Are we good?
Well, you know, Kadeas, let me ask you this. Do you think it's him?
No.
Why not?
Only because it was too easy. It was too easy. He wasn't hiding. It was too easy to find him. And I feel like, honestly, I haven't thought about it that deep. I've been screaming so much that this is so unimportant that I haven't actually sat down and thought about if it's really him or not, because it's not relevant. It's not relevant to trading. It's not relevant to anything that I do with Bitcoin. So I don't understand why. Yeah, I don't know. It's not relevant. So I don't know. When they first said it was him, I was like,
you weren't curious. You weren't curious. News is by definition, and I am an expert.
Yeah.
On
news is by definition news. The first rule of Fight Club is the first. The first rule of Tautology Club is the first rule of Tautology Club. Next.
But I wasn't.
You weren't at all curious who the inventor was, because he was.
No, because just like this, and it's the same thing when I used to trade. When I used to heavily trade foreign currency, forex. It's the same thing. I don't care about the math algorithms and how they work and the whole 9 yards. Do they work? They work. I don't need to sit down and look at all that. They work. So now let me focus on making them work for me, and not all this backstory about in 1931 when this person. That's irrelevant to what it's doing now. And so that's why.
Comment from Cybernaut, it's relevant because the creator has a very large pile of coin. The crypto coins are a pyramid scheme. Early coins are very easy and cheap to generate.
What I thought was funny is that if for somebody that has such a huge pile of Bitcoin, he sure lives in a small little house. So I mean, like, it's not. I don't see that. That's not relevant. Even if he has a pile of them, that's not relevant. We don't ask the banks that have piles of money. We're not asking other people all these same questions. It's not relevant.
People who are in hiding don't often live in palaces, Kadeas. I mean, that's, you know.
If he's living in hiding, why is he using his real name?
Apparently they found it from a phone book. And it may or may not be the real guy.
We all think it's a
don't
real
we?
guy.
Now we all agree that the Newsweek cover graphic was badass. I mean, that was awesome. You got to
I
admit.
actually like the logo sideways. That's actually kind of funny.
That was great. All right, Michael Banks, are you a Bitcoin aficionado?
I looked at Bitcoin and I got in too late, so I didn't even bother.
It's not too late. It's not too late.
It is? Well, sure. It is, especially when you got Comcast data caps. I mean, it's a little late for me. I mean,
what does Comcast data caps have to do with Bitcoin? What, I missed that story. What happened there?
I'm not using my machines to mine that.
You don't need to mine it. Just buy it.
No, it costs too much right now.
Well,
I'm
you're
a broke
in
college student.
so,
I'm a broke college student. I got tuition.
Well, make a Bitcoin wallet. We'll get you set up with one. We'll get you a little bit of coins after the show.
You get the hookup from Cadeas.
Yeah, I'm glad it's on public record. Glad I got it.
All right, so there we go. The founder of Bitcoin may or may not have been unmasked, and it may or may not be relevant.
Do you think it was him, Dan? Do you think it was him?
I don't know. I'm honestly undecided. There's evidence either way. Newsweek says they're staying by their story, but
you think Newsweek is going to back down on their story?
No, this is the premiere issue of the new print version under the new owner of Newsweek, right? The guys who own the International Business Times, I think, or whatever. I think. But they're obviously nervous and worried, but the reporter said that there was no ambiguity, because his explanation that he wasn't the founder was that there was a language barrier and he didn't understand the question and answered it incorrectly. He meant that he wasn't involved in U.S. Government engineering projects or whatever it was, and the reporter says no, there's no question that we were talking about Bitcoin, and he said I'm no longer involved in Bitcoin or something like that, right? So the reporter's standing by the story. Now whether the story, and I've been in a similar situation where I was told something false, my awful Netflix thing, where everything I wrote was accurate, but the guy was feeding me a line of BS. So it could be that case. In other words, the story could be completely accurate in his description of the conversation with this gentleman from Japan, who has a very common name in Japan, but it could be complete nonsense at the same time. Those are not mutually exclusive, as I learned.
Here's the thing, though. A lot of the criticism I've read about the reporting has actually been saying it's incredibly shoddy reporting. That, yes, they went and pulled out a phone book, and yes, they matched it up with some characteristics. But then the internet comes out and says, yeah, but if you look at this guy's Amazon write-ups and compare it with the writing from the initial papers on Bitcoin, they're radically different. It's like this guy can't even put sentences together. And if you compare a bunch of other things, they don't add up. And if she really believed that he was the original, that he mined the first Bitcoins, the easy thing to do is to get him to sign something digitally using the same key. And that would prove it conclusively. Yet she didn't do that. She's citing an interview for which she hasn't released the tapes.
And also, I mean, there's plenty of motivation. If I were this guy, and I was born in Japan, I don't look it, but I do have the height to back it up. If I were this guy, then I would be very leery of acknowledging that I was the creator of Bitcoin, because you've had some bad stuff happen, and I would be afraid, even if you ended up winning the lawsuits, that's expensive, and there's plenty of motivation for him to change his story. And if he is the guy that the brother said, he's an a-hole and he's whatever. So I don't know. I mean, this could be this poor innocent guy is going to be able to give speeches or be on the talk show circuit or do guest appearances or whatever. Or he is the guy, we don't know. But I would be there's plenty of motivation for him to mislead and say he's not the guy, because there's potentially incredible multinational criminal and civil liability for the creator of Bitcoin, depending on how this ends up. If it is a pyramid scheme, or
with all the things that's transpired with all the other currency, why is there no liability with any of that?
Because he doesn't have an army. Putin's ruble has an army backing him up and sovereignty. The Fed Reserve has the United States military backing it up, right? He's living in his mom's basement, playing with his Star Wars figurines, celebrating his virginity. This guy does not, you know, have a whatever. I mean, he's got Bitcoin, if he is the guy, right? So he's got some money, some diminishing value. Yeah, so there's plenty of motivation for him to mislead and say he's not the guy if he is the guy. But we don't know, so we'll see. It'll be interesting. And there's no denying that this is an interesting story. And it's for... If you're involved in it as you are, I would think if it turns out this is the guy, it would be valuable for you to be able to study his past writings and learn about his background and try to get more information on this. And that could be relevant. I think it's a news story. We disagree on that. So
it may be in the style that it was done. Maybe that's what I don't like. Because like I said, in a documentary form, yeah, I'd probably watch it one day, but not like this chasing him across LA and freaking eating sushi and got other people outside taking pictures. Like, it's not.
All right, so there you go. All right, next up, this is kind of a little minor story here, but interesting. Getty Images makes 35 million photos free to use. I didn't add this, but I saw the story, and what they're going to do is you can embed them on your WordPress blog or in certain things. I don't think you can, like, it's not like Google Plus where you if you link to a photo on Google Plus, it shows it real small and you can't. It's not big, which sucks. I wish you could make it big, but they don't. But now you can embed on a blog for free a bunch of Getty Images, and basically they said they're conceding that there's no way to stop this, and it has to be for non-commercial use. You can't do it like Huffington Post could not do that. They'd have to pay a license fee. But you know, Cadeas's cooking blog, he would have, you know, he could embed it with their embeddable code so that they can have control over it, so later they could put a logo or change the logo or whatever they want. It's not like you're downloading the picture and uploading it. Is this noteworthy? What do you guys think?
This is incredibly noteworthy. This is actually a far more major story than you're pitching it as. You've commented many times about how Facebook and Google Plus are just breeding grounds for copyright violators.
And they
are. Who are essentially taking, in a lot of ways, Getty Images and shoving them up there as their own. What Getty's now doing is saying, okay, look, you want to use our image, fine, use your image, but you're using it on our terms. We're now going to make it more difficult for you to outright steal the image, but we're going to make it easier for you to use the image.
Also, it gives them a better legal basis to sue someone if they do download it and upload it for a commercial site, because they can say, well, we make sharing tools available. This reminds me of, I think, on the New York Times or one of the big sites that said, you're free to share this article using our tools, but not to copy it and paste it into an email.
That's actually less defensible, because now somebody can say, hey, look, you're giving it away under, you know, you're giving it away over here. Why didn't you let me just, you know, steal it? And the answer is no. You know, you're using it under our terms. You're no longer using it under our terms. That actually, I think, makes it a more difficult case in some ways.
Because theoretically, in a year from now, they could put a little Chevrolet logo on the bottom right of the picture or something if they wanted. They have control over it. They're embedding their code. Any other thoughts on this from the rest of you guys?
Oh, come on, Michael. No thoughts from you? You're a photographer.
We can't hear you, Michael.
I mean, what can I do? I mean, if I had all my photos, I'd release them. I mean...
You wouldn't want to make money off of them?
I mean, sure, but I mean, if Okay, it's like freaking being a little, little shop right next to Walmart. I mean, hey, what can I really do?
Would you like Getty to buy your images from you?
Sure, but why would they when there's millions others that they have?
And yet they do. They buy it from photographers all the time.
What about the impact on there? I mean, they must have had some pushback from these guys who make. I know there's a friend of mine on Google Plus who's a stock photographer. He takes all kinds of just, crazy. He's a very good stock photographer, and this may dramatically alter his income level because, well, again, I think this is only non-commercial use, right? So they're not really losing any money. I mean, let's face it. Michael Banks' blog, he's not gonna freaking license a Getty image for $40 or whatever to use on his blog that makes $12 a year. So they're not losing any money, right?
And I will say, I mean, stock photography is definitely not my area. So I mean, I'm not really affected, me personally, even though I am a photographer, because I make no money from stock photography. It might be a bad precedent, or some, the photo company like Amazon might, do something crazy tomorrow. But I mean, it doesn't impact me directly.
Any other thoughts on this? Okay. All right, next up. In 2011, a gentleman, I think he was from Sweden, did a video, and it was excellent, but he was sort of described in one of the articles we linked to as a thorn in the side of the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration of the United States, which regulates flight airplanes. So he made a commercial or some sort of video for UVA's medical school in Charlottesville, which is about an hour and a half away from me. And he was kind of, in my opinion, trolling the FAA because it was some dangerous stuff, like flying over traffic and over pedestrians and over buildings and stuff, and could have theoretically caused an accident, etc. So the FAA fined him $10,000. It was the first time that they'd ever fined anybody for using a quote-unquote unmanned aerial vehicle or drone. And so this has been a big topic on sites like Poynter, P-O-Y-N-T-E-R, a great site for journalists, and other journalist circles, about whether it's appropriate to use, a hobbyist-style craft, and they can get up, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, or a couple $100 to take video for news. Let's say there's some big event going on, you want to fly up a model drone or whatever, and get some video of it, so you can put it on your blog or website or newspaper or TV station. So the FAA has said that if you are a hobbyist, in other words, you're not making any money, then you can do it. But if you are doing it for any commercial use, it's banned. Congress has been on the FAA to come up with regulations because they're literally currently quoting regulations from 1985. So this has become a big thing. Like, come on, get on with it. Give us regulations. And they basically said you can't do it. So this guy did it, and he thumbed his nose and got fined. And now a judge has just ruled that the FAA has no authority because this is basically just like a model airplane, and it's absurd for the FAA to claim the right to regulate this. If you wanted to do something commercial over a vacant field where there's no planes and you're only 10 feet in the air or 20, 30 feet in the air, then you're violating FAA regulation. That's absurd, in my opinion, as a journalist. And I think at some point you have a First Amendment issue here where you're trying to use, the tools of the day to tell a story, and you're being hampered by bureaucrats whose first inclination is to say no because it is safer to not have these, in the same way that you could say it's safer if no one drives a car anymore, so let's not drive a car anymore. That's absurd. So what do you guys think about this whole thing? I'm going to have to fly an unmanned aerial vehicle.
Clearly a lot. I don't know. I can see all sorts of trouble that this is going to cause.
Why do you say trouble?
Well, because it means that now, so Dan sends up his drone because he wants to get good coverage. Okay, since I don't want him to get good coverage, either because I'm from a competing newspaper or because I don't want this negative press about me, I'm going to send up my drone, and it's going to shoot down his drone.
I don't think you can have armed drones. And also, one thing I forgot to mention is
No, Dan, really? You don't think there are going to be armed drones?
No, I said I don't think you can legally have an armed drone if you're
Fine, I'll have a
citizen.
kamikaze drone.
True. You just ram. I'm going to ram Cadeas's drone like nobody's business.
Sure.
There'll be a new verb, droning. It'll be droning. We could have a TV show, droning match. And just to clarify, before Alan continues, the FAA did appeal this.
Superiority combat.
Say again.
It turns into air superiority combat. This is, a 100-year-old form of combat.
Sounds fun.
It's well understood, well established, and it's the reason why we have regulations that guide, that guide it.
Well,
that's what it's going to turn it.
I do want to make the point that the FAA did announce today they are appealing the decision, so it's not set in stone yet.
Well, here's the question though. But does it have to be the FAA? I mean, because shouldn't it just be more on the lines of civil? I mean, why is the FAA getting involved? It's like you said, 10, 15 feet in the air. So if I throw my basketball up,
in certain circumstances, like within a certain radius of an airport, for example,
right,
the FAA would logically be involved, clearly.
Right, I can understand that. Right around an airport makes sense.
I mean, that Miracle on the Hudson thing, that was some birds, right? I'm sure a couple of drones could do the same thing. But if you're in your backyard, and the FAA would make a seemingly logical but impractical decision, or decision, verdict, whatever, that if you're anywhere above a certain flight level, that you are potentially jeopardizing an airplane or a helicopter. And so, but it's overreach. It's just they've got to, and they've, Congress actually created a law that said by next year in September, I think, they have to come up with regulations for this, and they've admitted they're behind. I mean, they're quoting stuff from '85. I mean, come on.
Dan, let me ask you a question, Dan. Can you, as a news journalist, outfit a news truck with cameras and transmitters and drive it wherever the hell you want?
Yeah.
You really? Do you need a license to do that?
Wait, say that again?
Can you outfit
a traditional news van with cameras and stuff? Yeah, I have to get a
drive
license
it
to drive the
wherever
vehicle.
you want. What was that, Dan?
Yeah, but I could also walk for no license.
Really? You can walk wherever you want with a camera? You can walk into my backyard?
No, I mean, I could stand on the public street and do it.
Can you stand on a public street and do it in all cases?
I've done it.
So if
in
there's
fact,
a police
I've walked
barrier,
up to
you're allowed to cross
a front
that police
door.
barrier to record the news.
Say again?
If there's a police barrier, you're allowed to cross the barrier to record the news.
Well, what's the purpose of a police barrier? No, I've been in that situation as well, and you obey the police barrier.
And why do you obey the police barrier?
Because there's a guy with a gun and he'll in handcuffs, and it's unwise to get arrested, right?
Okay, legally, why do you obey the police barrier?
Legally, why do I obey it? Because there's a penalty involved. But the reason for the police barrier is usually there's a guy whose head smeared across the lawn, or you could tamper with evidence or something like that. And those are reasonable things.
So these restrictions are in place for the public health, safety, and welfare and good order, can we say?
That's the purpose of them. Whether they're universally implemented for that reason is a different story. But in general, I concede your point.
But this is why we have laws and regulations in general governing streets, for example. Why do you drive on the right side of the street?
I don't know where you're going for this, but why should
your news van and drive down the left side of the street?
Why should Google Earth be able to have more rights to cover something in Front Royal than I do?
Because they have the license to do so.
Why should I have to have a license to have a $50 thing 30 feet in the air to get above the, police cruisers? if news is
Because
happening. I'm not,
the public
I'm not
health,
over
safety,
the, I'm
welfare,
not over it.
and
I'm not
good order
endangering anybody.
dictates it.
You'd be a great bureaucrat.
We have this comment from Pam. In California, it is legal to record someone's backyard.
Yeah, because it's in public domain.
Send in the drones.
Question for Alan. Let's say I had one of those TV news vans with the pole and a camera on the pole, right? Not flying, but physical pole shot up in the air with a camera or a jib, whatever you want to call it. Why is that legal? But if instead of the $100,000 news van, I have a little $50 flying thing, at that point, you've got a poll tax. You've got a barrier to entry for the First Amendment. The rich TV station can afford the $100,000 news van. They can afford the, $500,000 helicopter at $250 an hour. But the blogger, the independent journalist, can't afford those things, and they're inhibited because of an archaic rule dating back to 1985 that the FCC understandably is afraid to create rules because they don't want to be responsible when someone hits a plane.
Well, so
right?
Dan, no, you've got a good point there. Okay, so you think it's fine that anybody can fly a helicopter?
No.
But that was the example you just gave.
No, I think there should be rules. What you really mean is anybody should be able to fly a drone and do so irresponsibly. No, I'm not saying that. There should be local ordinances that are reasonable. Like you can't fly it over an airport. You can't fly it within a certain number of a reasonable distance from an airport, and that distance, if you're within a mile, maybe it can't be over 50 feet or whatever the rules are. I don't know. Maybe they need to have a prominent flashing light on it or something. Things like that. I mean, just there are ways to tackle this, and there could be different ordinances.
I don't think this is an FAA issue. I don't think they need to get involved because of the height. I don't think I think it's like you said, just right around the airports. I don't think that it's necessary.
I think if you get a drone, we say drone, that brings up images of something over Pakistan that's
No,
$80
it
million.
brings up images of a quadcopter to me. Let me ask you something else.
To Joe Sixpack watching CBS News, that brings up images of an expensive drone over Pakistan. These are basically high-end hobbyist aircraft. Model airplanes that are $3,000 and can carry a camera, and sometimes those goggles and stuff like that. And they are potentially dangerous. And this video I show, it was flying over regular street traffic, and a car could have swerved or gotten panicked, and an injury could have happened. I can understand that. And you could have, I think a locality should be able to do rules. And I think that if you have a drone or a UAV, whatever, that's capable of reaching a certain height, or if you choose to fly it to a certain height, that it could potentially endanger aircraft, not necessarily a helicopter, because the odds of, helicopters not going fast enough for a drone to, and also the way that...
You don't think it could jeopardize a helicopter? By hitting one of its blades? Really?
I have no idea, to be honest.
Let me ask you something else, Dan. So where do you draw the line about what is controllable in airspace and what isn't?
I think a lot of it is, obviously I'm not an expert in that, but a lot of it is common sense. A lot of it should be, maybe you should have a license to go, like with mopeds, if it's over certain CCs, if it's certain power, if it can reach a certain height, you have to have a license. Because I don't.
How about model rockets? Can I fire model rockets?
I think any kid can do that, right, without a license. And they go pretty high, don't they? I don't know.
No, there's some very specific regulations about using model rockets.
Yeah, I have no idea. It kind of is a federal issue because there are many flights that start in one state and end in another state, and there's one agency that is specialized and skilled in enforcing rules regarding aviation, and that's the FAA. The problem is that this problem was created in the same way that Napster took off because the record labels were so slow to recognize that digital existed until Steve Jobs came in because of Napster and was able to coax them. The this situation has come up because the FAA has been dragging their heels, for 20 years on this stuff. Till Congress prodded them, they're still not going to make the deadline. But there should be reasonable rules. I should not be able to fly a high-speed, 7-foot wide drone over the White House, or at a certain height that could potentially jeopardize an aircraft, right? I mean, there are common sense regulations. But if you're in an open field, or if someone wants you to take video of his house, and you look around, there's no planes, and you want to fly up 100 feet in the air over a road where, it's a empty cul-de-sac, I mean, does the FAA really need to say you're committing a federal crime? That's ridiculous. I think there should be a balancing act. I mean, obviously there are common sense rules that should come into play. And it should be partially a local thing. Like New York City in a densely populated area might want to ban them, but in Montana they might not want to ban them. In the same way that gun laws and hunting rules are different in an urban city. You can't fire a gun. Like in Front Royal, you cannot fire a gun, but you can in Warren County. Any other thoughts?
Nope.
Okay. We're doing our best to put Sarik to sleep.
You're doing a good job putting me to sleep, too.
We'll succeed soon. Okay, so I'm losing my voice, obviously, but I do want...
So, Dan, how was your Google Plus week?
I got to do this one. Let me do this one. The other two, I can... I think the
I
other
tried,
two,
folks.
No, this one's awesome. The last topic that we could...
Just do it!
Push off till Monday, right? Okay, so I wanted to show... Guys, go here, and I'm gonna show the audience here, but I want you to go to the second paragraph of this link on the speed reader thing, and then click on the thing that says this link in the middle of the second paragraph. This is a concept I had not seen before. This is called Spreeder, and basically the way it works, the idea is that it's inefficient to have to print. All our reading is based on the printed page. Websites are based on the printed page. You start on the left, you go to the right. I guess Arabic is the other way, and some Asian languages. But so watch this. I'm going to hit play, and you can adjust the speed. And just, this is amazing to me. You're still reading.
This is amazing to you.
Yeah.
How wide are your newspaper columns, Dan?
I mean, I have 5-column paper.
Okay, so your newspaper columns are what? 1.5 inches, 2 inches?
2 inches.
This is amazing to you.
I think that this implementation is pretty cool. Yeah. I'd never seen an easy way to, and I tested it, and I think it takes some getting used to. But what do you think? I mean, do you think, is this something you would do, or this is like?
The only thing with this is that when you're reading and you have all the words on the page, you generally tend to. I mean, there are times where you want to stop. Maybe you start wandering in thought. This is going to continue to move right on past. You're going to be like, oh, shoot, let me rewind. So I don't see this, unless you're really into what you're reading, I don't see this.
This guy addresses that point. He said it really forces you, and I encourage everyone to read this Slate article. The article is entitled, "Don't Mock Speed Reading Apps, They Are Life-Changing." And he talks about some different tools he uses
To answer Cadeas, I think the big difference here is that this actually forces you to be an active reader,
exactly,
as opposed to being more of a passive reader. And I think that, for a lot of things, that's a good thing. I'll be honest, I played with this for about 5 minutes, and I got tired.
It's grueling, yeah, it's work. But it does force you to read quicker.
Yeah, I think it has merit. In the same way that newspaper columns are narrow for good reason, and it's the same reason. But I'll be honest, I got tired very quickly, and I stopped dealing with it.
And also,
I think
what was your comprehension level?
Charlie sits and he reads books all the time, and so I just had him sit here and just do this for about 30 seconds to a minute. He said he likes it. He said he got every word of it, no problem. So Yeah.
He also has 17-year-old eyes, and that's
well, I mean, this text, at least on this thing, is pretty big. So
yeah. Alan, did you find your level of comprehension was affected by this?
Not really. I didn't play with it for I didn't read War and Peace, but I don't know. I'm not sure how much.
He said his comprehension was 100%. So
he's a smart kid. But I think it's neat, and I think for wearables, and I think this was mentioned in this article. This will be isn't something like this on the Samsung Watch? They have some implementation of this, because that would be neat to be able to read a text message like this. If you had a really small screen, this could be a very useful application, right? If you're trying to read a text message.
Here's the funny thing. I think about this in terms of Glass, and this tries to do the exact opposite of what Glass tries to do. Glass tries to let you get a very quick sense of the whole thing in one quick glance. This tries to force you to pay attention to every single detail.
It does.
I think this is more efficient, but you really earn it. You're glued to the chair. You can't, no distractions.
Can't look away. Can't. Yeah.
It's not the best friend of an ADHD sufferer. Let me tell you.
Well, and again, I think it's bad at giving you a quick sense of something, which I think is what wearables are really good for. This might be good for a phone, and I'm not disputing that it doesn't have its place, because I think it does. It just doesn't have the place that I'm most interested in seeing development on.
I do think it's interesting we've sort of read a certain way. What was so unique to me, and I get your point, and it's an obvious one about the newspaper columns, but to cause less fatigue as you're reading long form journalism or any text, but I just thought this thing of flashing a single word and being able to adjust the speed, I thought that was pretty game-changing and pretty
It is clever. I will grant that. We had this comment from Trevor. I think Speed Reader is a neat idea, just like watching a foreign film. You get what's going on, and it keeps you hooked.
And then also from Trevor, he thinks he wishes this was on this Galaxy Gear, because he does have a Galaxy Gear, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was, or there was something that they had
condolences about using Galaxy Gear, by the way.
I think it may be on the new one, but there's this new company called Spritzer or something. That, but again, if you're at all interested in this Slate article is really good, and he actually talks about his personal experience trying them, and different speed levels he's tried, because it's totally adjustable, and he's trying each day. He tries to go a little bit faster, and if I could read, if we could read all the topics in their entirety, there's even a neat website he has where it'll strip everything out of the website except just the straight article text, and then you can put that in the Speed Reader web app, and you can read just the text without any of the ads or the headlines, subheaders. Also see popular articles, from around the web, all that crap that we deal with, that we've learned to subliminally tune out. And put it into our web periphery. I think I just made that term up. Then it's a great app. So it's his experience, and we'd love to get your comments and feedback and stuff, and play with this and see if you think it's useful. If it is, I played with it like the rest of these guys, and maybe like because I think Charlie's still in school, right? So he has to read stuff all the time for school. He may find this to be a useful thing for him.
Yeah,
for the casual reader, it does seem like more work. It's not as pleasant. But if he's got to bust out, I got to read this stuff or I'm going to get yelled at by the teacher, then this could be a very useful app. If I was back in college, I think this would be something I would definitely check out, more so than I have so far. And I can't talk anymore. So I guess Kadeas Kalut. Or let's start with Sreek. Sreek, anything you want to say about whatever? I didn't mean to wake you. I apologize.
Okay. I wasn't asleep, Dan. I was listening to your monotonous.
About whatever. How did
your monotonous?
I was
listening to my monotonous.
How was your Google Plus week, Sreek?
Actually, very tiring. Well, anyway, I was in I was in upstate. Actually, it's Connecticut. What's that place? Wilton? I don't know. Close to Danbury. I just got home after a long 3-hour drive. So it was not easy. And this is the second day I'm going this week, just for work. So from a Google Plus week perspective, not much engagement. But it's all right. I wanted to come in. It's been very busy for the last few weeks or months for me, so I couldn't really attend, especially on Fridays. And I wanted to ask Alan, about the app you made, and I didn't get a chance. I thought, Alan, you probably explained it last Friday, or was it this Friday when I said
Actually, I explained it about an hour and a half ago.
Okay.
But again, its name is Voodoo. I encourage people to check it out. It serves as lets you send documents from Google Drive to Google Glass and from Google Glass to Google Drive.
When you say documents, you actually send the physical documents or the link?
No, you send physical documents. So you can dictate notes on Glass, take pictures or videos, send them to Drive, and they get stored on Drive. If you've got photos that you put in a folder on Drive, they get sent to your Glass. Not Word documents. Google Docs or text files that get put into the folder, you can read them on Glass or have them read aloud to you.
When you say you can send them to Drive, you can decide on what format, etc.?
Text files are saved in Google Docs format. Currently, pictures and videos are saved in either JPEG or MP4, which is how they come off Glass.
And you can dictate the text?
Yeah.
Oh, so there's a voice interface.
Well, Glass has a voice interface, so yes.
So you are leveraging that API to...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. Great, nice. Awesome.
Yeah, sure. No, I say something like, okay, Glass, take a note for my Drive folder. This is a sample note, and it shows up there, just like that.
When I get my Google Glass, I'll try it.
You getting Glass?
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually.
No, because I don't know whether it's... I have my own glass. Do they have a product with... I have my own glasses, right? Do they have a product?
You can get frames now for Glass, yes.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. But do you think it is at a stage where it's commercially... I think the cost is pretty high even now. And
it's still part of the Explorer program. It's still for people who are looking to be on the leading edge and try things out and explore what can be done, the potential of this technology.
Agreed.
So no, it's not a full-on release yet.
Yeah.
But it's there are a lot of different sorts of people that are using it.
Hey, the price is right.
Considering that I'm not an explorer, I want to use it, but I want to wait till I, have a fully usable product with. Well, fully usable is subjective, obviously.
Right. It's. I'll be honest. It turned out to be exactly the right thing for me at the right time. I was using it in ways that I never expected to use it, and I'm finding new uses for it all the time. And in Voodoo, it was, Voodoo was me creating the product that I wanted to use.
I had a question for you.
That's when I wrote my game. When I wrote my game, it was because I wanted to play the game, and it was on Boardwatch, and at the time you had to pay long distance to get to the Boardwatch BBS, and it was a Towers of Hanoi game, and I wanted to play it, and I couldn't find it, and so I wrote it. And then I released it, and it sold 110,000 copies. That's when I had a BMW. But that's the best app. Those are the best apps when it's something you wish you could have and you can't, and so you make it. That's how they natively pop up. It's not the ones where you're like, I want to try to make a buck. It's like there's a need I want to fill and I can't fill it, so I'm gonna have to create the solution to my problem, and that's the mother of invention.
I had another question. The glass which you are using, Alan, right now, right, versus what's available right now, is a difference in hardware in terms of the capabilities, in terms of
Well, okay. The glass that I have now is what they call the Charlie revision of the hardware. It's an upgrade from the original one that I had, which was the Bravo version. So, yeah, there are some minor differences. They're fairly minor, though. I don't know if there will be a next version before it gets released. I don't know what would be in that version. I haven't been told anything. And they're not saying. I'm not even sure they know at this point if there will be a difference.
So since you're in the Explorer program, whenever they do an upgrade, they send it to you?
They have made no promises about that for the future.
Okay.
They did for the last hardware upgrade. They're not promising they're going to do that again in the future.
I forget. What's the underlying operating system? Android or?
It's Android, yes.
Okay, so you get revisions on the OS as well?
They're promising that a future release will have an upgraded version of Android. In a lot of ways, that's not going to be relevant for most people. You're not dealing with Android in the same way you deal with smartphones running Android.
You mean it's not a full flavor of Android?
Oh, it's definitely a full flavor of Android.
Okay.
But you're not getting Android Launcher, for example. That would be stupid.
Okay. The kernel is the same, but you don't have all the apps or even the launcher.
The UI and UX is very different than a traditional Android environment. And you should not expect it to be, and you wouldn't want it to be. Using Glass is very different than using another environment.
Right. In traditional Android, you still write Java code and compile it, but in Glass it's different.
There are two ways to develop for Glass. The first is what's called the Mirror API. This is what I used for Voodoo. It is a server-based API. So you can write using any programming language that you wish. You host it on a server. There's a protocol for how your server will talk to Glass and vice versa. The other solution is using more of the native Android development tool. So you'll be writing with Java on Android, targeting it for Android. That's known as the GDK or the Glass Development Kit. That's still in developer preview right now. It's a very immature product. There's a long way for it to go before it's ready for prime time use, but it's getting there bit by bit. There's a lot of changes that are still going to be coming with it, and it gives you some advantages and some disadvantages.
Let's say if Kedaeus actually gets a Glass and downloads starts using your app, is he communicating with your host server, or is it does it even have to?
Is that relevant?
Yeah, I mean.
Why is it relevant?
If you're gonna host the application on your machine, on your server, your bandwidth is consumed.
Why is it relevant to you as a consumer, though? Why is it relevant to you or to Kedaeus where the app runs?
Not to me. I'm saying if I'm gonna be the hoster for the app, it'll be relevant for me, right?
So if we're talking about my app, for example,
right?
Yes, it matters to me as the author of the app where it runs, but why would it matter to Kedaeus, who's the person who's using the app?
Not to Kedaeus. I'm saying I'm looking at the economies of scale here. Let's say 1 million people start using it. How does it affect you?
It affects me because I need to scale up my server to handle it.
Okay, that was the question.
Okay. But that's true with any server-based.
No, I understand. So I'm thinking at, my question was more from a technical perspective. Since you said it's server-based, right? So it's no different from any service provided by a website. In this case, your application is running out of the server which you host. But
well, exactly, it is a website.
Right. Okay.
The Mirror API is a web-based API.
So, what I'm trying to say is, typically, on a cell phone or a smartphone, right? Unless you are using, it's the same actually. If you're using a browser and you're actually hitting a website, the person who is hosting that website still has to pay for the bandwidth. So it's no different.
Right. Well, and even if you're not using a browser, if your website needs to fetch data over the network, it's got to fetch it from somewhere, and that somewhere needs to pay for bandwidth costs.
Right. True. Yeah. So I was in my mind, I was trying to envision how it works.
Well, as I said, there are two different ways that it works. If you're server-based, you've got all the issues that you have when you're running a server. If it is purely client-based, you've got all the issues you have when you're building a client.
I agree. Yeah. And then you said it has both APIs. Is it you got to code it separate differently to use different languages?
They each handle different problems, and they approach those problems in different ways.
Okay.
So, yeah, there is some crossover that you could do, but in general, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. Gideas, you still with us?
I'm still with you.
How was your Google Plus week?
It was interesting to say the least. I did a lot of battling with the Bitcoin thing over the last few days. Charlie convinced me to go to some indie concert, and so I thought I'd try to play with Google events, Google Plus events, just to see like where some of the things were, where the bugs were, how difficult was it to get it rolling, how well party mode worked. So I did a lot of playing around with that and got some interesting results, surprised on both sides of the scale. So yeah, but that's pretty much what my Google Plus week was like.
Cool. Okay. And Dan's chair, how was your Google Plus week?
Mine was very busy. We actually closed our Main Street office because we weren't using it, and I had it was our graphic design office. One of the guys left to work for Apple, and the other guy moved to North Carolina, and he's still designing for us. He's fantastic, Jeff Richmond. He's a absolutely brilliant artist. He's wonderful, and I'm jealous. We all hate him because he's so good, and good for him. So we weren't really using the office for much. It was basically an in and out box. So now that, and then we did the paper. I laid the paper out last night, and so I was exhausted. That's why the show was late, and I apologize to the panel and to the viewers who were waiting for it. But now my thing is I'm trying to figure out a way for, like, if I have a sales rep who wants to, they used to go to the office and there was like a place where they'd leave checks from clients, and there was a place where I'd leave paychecks for a bunch of people, right? So we're trying to figure out how to do that. So for the paycheck thing, if I'm trying to figure out a technical way to do it, because if I do PayPal, it's like 3 days for them to get the money. I don't want to drive around to people. I don't want to mail because I don't trust the postal service to get it there on time. And so I'm trying to figure that out.
Say it, Gideas.
Have you tried Google Wallet, Dan? Have you tried Google Wallet?
How fast is it? If I wanted to give you, $500, if I sent it today, when would you get it?
Right away. 40 seconds tops.
Send it by Gmail. Gmail Google Wallet shows up immediately.
And that's the Google Wallet number 3, I believe.
How does it?
Was it 3 or 4? I forgot. I think you're right that it's 3. You're right.
You get a notification, or it's in your bank account in 40 seconds?
It's you get a notification and it's available for use in 40 seconds, but to move it to your bank account, you still have the issue of ACH. That's a bank problem. So you're still gonna, if you're trying to send anything from anything to anything dealing with bank, it's still gonna be 3 days. Now, if you want to do what I do for payment processing is Chase.
And this is, well, hang on, but this is where Google Wallet number 4 comes into play.
Yeah, so if you use Google Wallet number 4, which is the prepaid card, you have your money immediately. And you can go to an ATM, pull it out. You can do a cash advance at the bank and get cash and deposit it right into your account if you want to do that. So. And
I think some restaurants and retailers are going to that for their employees, right? Where they're forcing them. That's how we pay you. You get an ATM card.
Right. For the last, I want to say the last 10 years, that slowly started to progressively become the thing to do. Is we're not going to give you paper checks anymore. You take a card of some sort. If you don't have a bank account, then you get a card, and we deposit the money onto your card.
And they could use that card. They can either go to an ATM to get it, or they could use it at Walmart or McDonald's or wherever they shop, and use it to buy stuff. And frankly, it's no more trouble for them to go to an ATM than it would be to go to an office to pick up a physical check, and then they'd have to go to the bank to deposit it, right?
Right.
So that isn't,
do you have a?
And if they deposit it, it's not necessarily available for immediate use either.
If they do a cash advance at the branch, it is.
Well, I mean, in most cases locally here, these guys they can, they can just go to their bank, deposit, and they got the money. But yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. I still haven't figured out the part where, like, I just got a text literally like 3 minutes ago. Someone has money they have to give me from a client so I can get it in the bank to deposit it, so our billing person can, credit the person's account, etc. So we need basically like some sort of in-out box thing. Well, we shouldn't, though. I mean, it's 2014.
Yeah, but these banks, they won't change, so.
They like the system because then, I guess that's how they make money. But so my week was busy, and next week is my light week, and so we're going to focus on our. We're creating a PDF, like a sell sheet for our web sponsorships. This project we're doing with Craig Ship. So that was my week. Alan Furstenberg in New York. How was your Google Plus week, sir? You must be resting on your laurels, and at the same time frantically trying to improve the product based on feedback now that you've gone public.
Resting on my laurels. You're funny, Dan. This has been a kick-ass week. The release Monday was just great. Watching LinksFit release shortly after was also awesome. Keeping up with all of the user requests and watching usage grow has been great. I've got plans for the next batch of stuff that's coming out, and on top of that, I'm giving a presentation tomorrow on developing for Google Glass. So this is going to be, and it keeps going from here.
Good for you, and we're proud of you. And I think this is exciting. This is exciting for you and exciting for all of us who.
Part of the reason why it's exciting for me, part of it is that it's my glassware. It's mine. I'm finally getting it out. But part of it also is seeing how people respond to some of this coming out. I've seen people talk about how, hey, this is the solution to problems that I had about doing video production. This is the solution to problems I've had doing something else. I've had people sending me inquiries about how they can use it in the classroom. This is people thinking about what glass means to them. And that means just tremendous amounts to me. Whether or not they use Voodoo, and I hope they do, because I hope it'll be useful to them. But almost as important to me is I hope they're using glass, because I hope glass is important to them. Because I think glass is a game changer. And if Voodoo helps people realize how it can be, that's awesome. If it's some other app, if it's LinksFit, if it's Word of the Day, if it's something else that helps them realize that glass is a game changer, that's terrific. Because I want people to realize that it's a game changer.
Is it?
And I want more great glassware out there.
Am I correct? I'm trying to remember here. You almost didn't get glass. Didn't you get glass like because someone did you a favor or something? And
no,
it turns out you're like the premier developer? Or how did that work?
It was two things. The first is in IO 2012 was when they were doing the first round of signups, or what would turn out to be the first round of signups. And it was quite literally, I was on my way out the door, and they still had glass set up there, fielding questions, and there wasn't a mob scene around it anymore. So I stopped by to take a look and ask questions, and I met Sarah Price, who was the community manager at the time, the only community manager at the time. And I asked a couple of questions, and I decided, I might as well sign up. There was no binding obligation. But it was a good opportunity, and I hoped it would be an opportunity that would benefit myself and others. So I took a chance on it. And when the opportunity rose for us for some of those people who had signed up to attend the Foundry event to learn how to program, I was at a point just before then saying, 1,500's a lot. And, it doesn't necessarily fit into my budget right now. And I'm not sure it's going to be worth it. Maybe I'll just wait until it's released, and it's going to be cheaper then, and see what comes out. And I went to the Foundry event, and I tried it on for the first time, and within 15 minutes, I knew that this was going to be a game changer for me. And I wanted to help other people understand why it could be a game changer for them. And when they explained some of the bigger picture, when they explained some of the what does it mean and how do you develop for it and what is it good for and why, I realized that it was answering questions that I had been voicing for a long time about technology. I had been concerned that technology was creating a barrier, and I could see how this was breaking those barriers.
I gotta go, guys.
See you, Rick. Thanks, buddy.
Nice, Rick.
Nice weekend.
So that's what sold me on it. So yeah, there were 2 points where I was very dubious about whether I was going to get involved in the program, and trying it really sold me on it.
Now, do you anticipate that, to actually make some money, as the app matures, that there'll be like either a paid app version and a premium version and a regular free version, or
I
a
hope
subscription plan for some features or something?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm planning on doing. My intention is that there will be a base level that has Voodoo generally useful for people. And there will be a more premium version that adds additional features that certainly that I wouldn't even say in some ways it adds additional features, but expands the features that are there to give you additional options or make them even more useful. Those are the sorts of things that I'm anticipating at this point once Google lets us charge for it. Because right now we're not allowed to charge for our glassware. And that's understandable why. They're trying to establish a good base of good glassware and good glassware examples. And once that is there, open the floodgates to paying for them.
That's ironic, considering glass is probably currently more expensive now than it ever will be in the future for the consumer.
Probably. But again, at the same time, though, people who paid $1,500 for it are not going to pay 99 cents for an app because they will balk at that. They just, that's how people think about things.
Okay. Well, kudos to you.
What about you, Cadeus? Have you tried Voodoo yet?
I've been using Voodoo. I think I used it. I think you talked about it a long time ago, and so you had a APK, and so I generally use it for notes. Is what I found myself using it for, only because and then I've used it a few times for video when I needed to get video right away, pushed up right away, and how Glass does the little delay thing. So I've used it for that. But mainly notes. I mainly use it for notes, just to quick things out of my head. If I think of something, I just say it right off and throw it in notes.
That's a great use.
And then I share it with Charlie, who doesn't have Glass, and so he can actually see the notes in Drive. So I've got him integrated deep in the Drive as well. So
Charlie, take out the trash.
You better have that house clean when I get home.
Or there's going to be hell to pay. Alan, if someone wants if someone's curious about Voodoo, what's the URL, or even if they're not a Glass Explorer, if they're just curious how it works?
If you're curious about it, you can check us out at voodoo, VODO-list, LIST.com. VoodooList.com.
Awesome. I thought it was GeoCities. Just kidding. No
You really want me to start grading your website, Dan?
No. No. All right. Hey, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. If you missed last week's show, it was really good. We had Chi Chu, who was a vice president at Google in charge of Seattle and Kirkland. He's a site lead there. He's also in charge of Hangouts, all the different parts of Hangouts, the video calls, the instant messaging, all that stuff. And Voice is moving over to his domain. And he answered questions for over an hour from us and mainly from the viewers who were submitting questions either in advance using the Google Hangouts on Air Q&A app, and also during the show live. So it was initial questions and then follow-up questions. It was just epic. It was awesome. If you really want to geek out, this is a keeper episode, so please check that out. That was last week on Google Plus Week. We're here every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Cadeas, my Pacific expert. You're
all right,
an expert.
so you want me to say Pacific time?
8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And we also do another awesome show, which is called Our Android Week, which is all about the iPhone. Just kidding. All about Android news. It's much more specific than this one. We don't talk about drones, for example, usually, unless it's an Android operating system drone. But that show is at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and usually starts on time or relatively close to on time. And I apologize for being late.
Speaking of on time, however, just a warning for our European viewers, and we know there are a bunch of you. The U.S. is entering summertime this weekend, so you will be seeing us at a different time, at least until you enter summertime.
Alan, do you think daylight savings time is relevant? Do you think we should still be doing that?
What about the agrarian calendar for school? I mean, where do you begin?
Daylight saving time is very relevant. Standard time is not.
Okay, I can do that.
Like, you have to have...
So should we continue to do this switch every year is basically my question. Or should that just phase itself out?
If for no other reason than to remind people to change the batteries in their smoke detectors.
But everyone will have a Nest, so you won't have that problem in the future.
Yeah.
Remember when that was a big deal? You had to... Everyone reminded everyone, make sure you change your clock. Now nobody has to do that. Because all of our computers and phones...
Adjust their clocks automatically, that's right.
Right. We don't have any more SD watches or timepieces. Hey, folks, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Please do check your smoke detectors. If you don't have one, buy one.
And when you purchase one, buy a Nest.
Absolutely, buy a Nest. Or if you don't have, what is it, $150 or whatever for a Nest, get a great value brand. Can you imagine? Your family, you had a great value brand. Oh, I don't want to troll them. We love Walmart. Anyway, thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. And please do check your smoke detector. Make sure it's working. Change the batteries. It's a good time to do it. And all that good stuff. Keep your family safe. Safety first, baby. Anyway, until next time, have a wonderful Google Plus week. We'll be here. Most of us. And Pam will be back. And best wishes to Pam for a speedy recovery from her cold or whatever.